hard people. Those are the people that make sure we have good times. They go out and
Right.
they work hard. They again provide. You can label all that, and then the weak people are the ones that have been the beneficiaries of it. You
Yes.
see it today. You see it, and I'll give an illustration. You see it in the people that complain about capitalism on what typing it in a post on
Yeah.
Instagram on their iPhone while they're sipping a latte from Starbucks. Yet
Yes. Yes.
capitalism is evil, yet they're able to do all the things they have because they're beneficiaries of the capitalist free market system that people
Yes.
have built.
Well, Jeff, I've been looking forward to this interview for a couple of days, and hopefully, this is the first of many conversations we have together. Because, like a guy like you, I'm willing to have on the show as many times as possible because I like to talk and I like your philosophy about things. Even though I've never read any of your books, I I I share a lot of your philosophy, and I know some of your philosophy based on some of the other podcasters that I listen to.
Okay. Well, good. I'm I like to have a conversation too. I'm really easy to talk to. Things flow really easily, organically, um, which is nice. I I've watched some of your shows, good stuff. That's why I like kind of the long form conversation stuff anyway. You really get to the heart of who somebody is. It's not canned, it's not rehearsed, you know.
Yeah, I actually
And
prefer doing this in studio. Like to be
I'm
quite
sure,
honest with you,
yeah,
if I had the budget, I would have offered you to come down and hang out with me in studio because it's a much different feeling. Like we don't have to cut each other off when we're live and like we don't step on each other. But like from what I understand, you're out on the West Coast, right?
yeah. I'm out in San Diego.
What how do you feel about San Diego, man?
You know, I have a love hate relationship with it because that's California in general. But I really love San Diego as a city. I've been out here since '89 when I came out here in the Marine Corps. And it's just gorgeous. I grew up back east, but I came out here. I was like, wow, it's really a beautiful city. It's really just nice. The weather's perfect. You can't beat it. It's got its problems too. My wife is a native though, and so that kind of locks us here in some regards. It's fine. We did break away for some time. I've been in and out of California since '89. Kind of left for a period of time, and then came back, and then met her, and then we left for about 7 years. Moved to Idaho. That was an amazing adventure. We lived 7 years in Idaho, and then came back again. So yeah, one of my daughters is born in Idaho, and the other is born in here in San Diego.
Man, that's awesome. I've only been to San Diego once, and I was just driving through. Really, I was with my stepdad, and he was delivering a load in Chula Vista, California.
Hmm.
And I was like 14 when we drove through there, and I was like, man, I want to stop and see the ocean. And he's like, we don't have time. So we drove on through, but man, it was really cool. I actually really love California myself, and I live an hour north of Kansas City, so it's a very Midwestern around here, and I'm a very Midwestern kind of guy. A lot of people would say I'm conservative, but I've been kind of pushed that way. I'm more of a libertarian than anything.
Hmm.
If I had to put myself in a category, it would be like libertarian or maybe not even political at all, other than the last couple of years. But um, what I really like about California is just how beautiful it is, and then the weather. I don't really pay so much attention to the people because I'm not there long enough to really get to know anybody. So
Yeah, the I love the Midwest. I lived in Kansas City for almost 2 years.
no
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
in Kansas
awesome.
City itself. Yeah, I love like that was in the when was that? That was like the late '90s. I lived in KC.
That
Actually,
was
it's
a
when I
good
became
time.
dude. It's when I became a. So I lived in Westport, and I lived on Brush Creek for a little time. I had this little like crappy little like 500 square foot apartment right in Brush Creek on Brush Creek. The
Yeah.
plaza, I think it's called the plaza. It's kind of it was just right off the plaza, but I had a view of Brush Creek kind of going through in this kind of older kind of mid-rise building down there. And then I got an apartment in Westport. It was just kind of just right up from that. But I
Yeah.
love Kansas City, and that's when I became a Chiefs fan because like the whole town becomes alive, right? It's like, and I also became a Jayhawks fan. Like I would go to Lawrence and watch the go down to Lawrence and watch the basketball games, and that's when they were like, I mean, I've always had a really good team. They've got a really rich history, KU basketball. But like, I would
Yeah.
go down and like watch on Thursday nights. I think Thursday nights watch the basketball games. Became a Jayhawks fan, and then like I think Elvis Gerback was the quarterback at the
Oh
time.
my goodness.
I
Oh
think I
my
think it was
goodness.
right on the heels of like Montana left, and then Gerback was there. It was like this weird transition. I think Marty Schottenheimer,
Yeah.
Chokenheimer
Yeah.
was the head coach, right? Could
Yeah.
almost could get us there, but never enough. But I just loved like God, man. I would just go out and everyone would just be alive. Everything was because it's like I don't know. I would joke like, was there not much else going on? But I really loved the Midwest. I really enjoyed my time in Kansas City.
See,
I think
a lot of
I like
people call us
KC.
the flyover state, right? You know, flyover states in the Midwest. And I'm, I don't know, like it must be because there's a lot of space in between the big cities
Mm-hmm.
and people don't appreciate the beauty of wide open spaces anymore. But I love it in the Midwest. And to tell you honestly, if I was going to move anywhere, it would probably be to like more rural than where I'm at, you know, which I'm an hour north of Kansas City. I mean, you know, Kansas City, like on the outskirts of Kansas City, it's all rural. So,
Yeah, oh yeah,
I,
and that's what I would tell people. I would love it. Like it would take no time in the middle of nowhere.
right,
Like in 20 minutes, you're outside of town and there's nothing. You get on the
exactly.
70 and you like go west toward like Topeka, and it's not long and there's just nothing. It's just wide. And I love that. I love that you
Yeah.
could have like this kind of urban environment when I lived in KC, and then if I wanted to get out, you're like out and there's just nothing. I don't like the sprawl. That's one thing I don't like about like Southern California. It's kind of this endless
Yeah.
sprawl of stuff. And, we're fortunate out here. If you ever come back out, what's really cool is there's Camp Pendleton to the north of us.
Yeah.
And Camp Pendleton kind of comprises like 26 miles of coastline. It's a military base, but it's like this buffer that prevents San Diego from becoming Hell A. And
Yes.
it literally like it just stops it, and then you get this freaking sprawl, and it stops it at Camp Pendleton. You got this beautiful California coast. California like looks like what it used to look like because it's undeveloped over there at the base.
Right.
And then you hit Oceanside, and then you start to get that build up as you go down to coast cities. But yeah, I love KC. I love it a lot. I used to like. I mean, I've even from because when I was there, I was working in Florida. I worked 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off when I was a bodyguard, and I always liked just flying out of KC because it was easy. It's like an
Yes.
easy airport to get in and get out. It's like, and I don't need big, massive airports. I think they're a pain in the ass. If you've ever been to New York City, like JFK, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. No,
Just traffic.
I've
Yeah.
actually never been to New York proper. I've just driven through. I got to see the Statue of Liberty, but not up close. The thing, like, so I'm kind of broke, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you because one of the things that you're known for is hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Now, some people could misinterpret that as men, the gender, especially during today's social, whatever the fuck we're in, you know? Um, but I
Right.
interpret that as not men, but man,
Yes.
mankind.
Mankind. Yeah.
And it's really kind of all of us that have got to step up and teach these younger generations how to live their lives because nobody's paying attention to them, man. And I think I am the way I am because I grew up so poor and
Mhm.
I don't know what. So adversity, I lean into adversity. I hit it head on, you know, because I don't want to be stuck in one spot. And so I've always had to fight for the next thing my entire life. And I think that's actually what goes to the heart of that. I think as the economic times got better, more and more families kind of split up because they had to work because they thought they needed the nice shiny shit in the driveway
Mhm.
and the all the consumerism, man. And I'm no better. I'm no different than anybody else. I like my cheap crap, you know. But I think you're really onto something. And you when you had reached out to me, there was a moment there. Well, I kind of had to laugh. You got death threats for that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was well, I had written that like years ago, years ago, and it became like a meme for a bit, and then I included it in Those Who Remain, uh, the final volume in the New World series, and it's where like the main protagonist is talking to his grandson, and he's like they're on a tarmac, and he's turning to him, and he tells him kind of this. Now he in there is referencing kind of both. He's referencing, he's talking to his grandson, so he's talking man to man, about time for you to grow up, kind of a concept. And it's one generation talking to the next, right? You have the
Yeah.
grandfather talking to the grandson, but there is this overarching. I think you're right. And it is. There's this overarching kind of. It's more of mankind, um, and it really what the quote is kind of a distillation of generational theory. Are you familiar with like
Yeah.
the Strauss-Howe generational theory?
Somewhat. I've never read the book, or any of the books pertaining to that. But yeah, I'm familiar with the theory, and I absolutely 100% agree with it, especially in terms of geopolitics, especially.
Yeah, and it's kind of eerie, even though it's a theory, how you when you layer it, and they've done that. I think in their book Generations, when they lay it down, and then you kind of start going back, you can see, the hard times create strong men. You can see these kind of turnings occur,
Yeah.
and it is kind of eerie. And by the way, so I want to add to this though too. It's like it's not as if this. I mean, I didn't invent anything. This concept of one generation looking at another generation and say, "Hey, you need to grow up. You're not as good as me." That's timeless. That goes back. Plato discussed that. I think in the Republic. There was a great Muslim historian, Ibn Khaldun, had written
Yeah.
extensively. I think it was the 14th century, and he was discussing generations. He had kind of a generational theory as well, and it covered like five turnings in his. I can't remember off the top of my head where that came, what the book he had that in, but that's from the 14th century. So this isn't the
Yeah.
concept is timeless. It's what we all do when we're generations. It's something about us when we go back, and you even kind of reference it. We got to teach these kids how to write. You look and you
Yeah.
go, they're not XYZ, fill in the blank. But I will say this: I've got two daughters that are, I think, what are they, Generation Z? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
you're probably an Xer like I am. We're Gen X, right? You're probably Gen X, I'm
Actually, I'm
assuming.
I'm classified as millennial. I just turned 40. So
Oh, dude, I'm really disappointed. I got to go. I gotta go. No, I'm joking.
I think the
I'm
term
joking.
they coined a term a long time ago. I don't know how long ago, but it zillennial, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of right there in between the two. So I grew up quite digital. We got our first computer in 1992. I was 7. So
Mm.
I was pretty young, but I do remember times without digital. And my entire life has been spent outside. My mom kicked me out of the house. I was a latchkey kid. Um,
You're a Gen
she,
X guy, then. I mean, that's
exactly,
kind of what Gen
exactly.
Xers are known for.
We drank
And
out of
did
the
you did,
hose, and
right? Did you grow up back in the Midwest?
yeah, yeah. I've lived in the same city my whole life. So the farthest I've gotten away from here is 5 miles across the river into Kansas. And I stayed there for 5, 6 years. But then I was right back in this city. I'm not opposed to moving, but I've lived here my entire life, and I've never hit that. I've never hit that financial ability to take off and leave from here. I've gotten to travel, and when I look at home prices and jobs and stuff like that outside of here, it's like, why would I leave here? Why couldn't I just make this home base and just travel from here?
That's how I feel today. I did an extensive amount of travel as a young man. Fortunate the military does that for you. And
Right.
I would encourage all young men to explore that. I know that's not really talked about today.
It's not
Um,
popular, and like I'd really like to have like military recruiters on. It's not popular because of what it I mean, we're not sending our kids to war. We're not sending them off to die. That's not the general idea. The general idea is to grow up, you know.
yeah,
If
and it
if
teaches them
JRT
discipline. It gives them
it
purpose. And
it
young men, if
yeah.
we talk about like a men's thing, I like to talk about men's issues because men, we have them. We're kind
Yes,
of the
yes.
gender. We're kind of that disposable gender in a lot of ways, and that's okay. I mean, we designed to be stronger. We're designed for
We
war. We're
got
designed
we
for
got broad shoulders, brother.
yes. We're designed for picking up stuff and breaking stuff, and this is how God designed us in a way. But that makes us kind of cannon fodder. But at the same time, I think when you look at a young man that doesn't isn't sure what they want to do, there's it in college isn't the answer. And I don't think everyone should go to college, by the way. And I didn't
Me
even go to
either.
college. I didn't go to college, and
I didn't make it out of high school. So
but and look at you. It's like you are able to obtain success, which is a relative term, if you just go on a certain path with consistency and discipline, you will get to where you're going and find success. And again,
yeah.
that's relative. It's people use financial success as an easy barometer. Like, okay, this guy's doing okay because of he's got this, or he's collected enough kind of nice shiny objects. He clearly has this. What they don't realize is most people are leveraged to the hilt. So that they actually
I
own it, or they're just borrowing it for a period of time because
Man,
they're
I was just
leveraged out.
explaining this to my wife the other day. I've actually talked about this multiple times recently because I've gotten down on myself because I'm not where I want to be. And it has nothing to do with where I truly want to be. It's where I perceive that I want to be because of where everybody else makes their appearances like, but they're living hellish lives. They're not happy. Whereas I am, like we're below the $100,000 a year income, threshold here in our house, and we have a single family income, or a single family income, single income family. Um, I'm a stay at home dad, and I've been a stay at home dad for the last almost 11 years. And how I got to be that way is because I've been a laborer, I've been a worker bee my whole life. I didn't know anything else. I'm not educated. I didn't have the proper qualifications to get past that financial hump of that earning hump. I was only going to make, 15 to $20 an hour for a long period of time, and we couldn't afford somebody else to raise our kids. My wife is educated. She's got a great job. She's got a solid base under her, education and experience wise, and she's in the corporate world. And I wanted to take a break from work because I was working my ass off. I was out on the road for 8 years and didn't get to experience my kids growing up. So I took a
What
break
were you
and
doing? You're like a long road trucker? Like what were you?
no, actually I was underground utilities. So have
Okay.
you ever seen those big machines that drill underground and pull back utility lines? That
Yeah, I'm familiar.
it,
Yeah.
that's what I did. Horizontal directional drilling. And so I have a CDL. I can do long range trucking, but I had to have that so I can move equipment around and stuff. But so I'm used to hard work. That's what I was used to doing. And I just wanted to take a break so I could get to know my kids a little bit and kind of rest a little bit. And I was like 400 and some pounds. And it turns out like my wife, she's actually wanted to go to school to continue her education and get bigger in her career. And we had a conversation, and it was like it was financially not feasible for me to work and pay for childcare at the same time. I'd be essentially just paying for childcare. So I stayed home with the kids, and um, maybe I'm not a good dad or a great dad, but I'm here, and that's what matters. And I think that's what a lot of young men are missing these days.
Yeah, they're one thing, family's everything. I everything I do, my whole like purpose. But nothing is, I'll say this, nothing is am I always happy as a parent? No, because kids can be a pain in the ass. I think if you, and this is where you get some of these polls that let that try to justify people being dink. You've heard of the term dink. It's like
No, no, I actually
uh,
haven't.
I think it. Now that I said it, I shouldn't. I think it's like
See,
dual
that happens
income.
on podcasts all the
Oh yeah, so
time.
dinks, dual income, no kids. It's talking about married couples that never have kids, and so what they do is they live kind of they have really nice jobs. They both work, and they just spend on They're like the ultimate consumerism. And I can see why there's a big push in certain media markets to promote dinks because I mean they're buying stuff. They're consumers. That's what they're
Yeah.
going to do. They're just going to buy stuff and consume, consume, consume.
But they don't buy near as much as parents do. Let's be
I don't
honest.
think that they do either. I don't think that they do either. But there's certain companies that push them because anyway. The point I was making is, they'll go see. I mean, because parents aren't happy. Well, yeah, maybe you caught me as I'm changing a diaper. I'm not happy, or you caught me because my teenager slammed the door in my face and we're arguing about something. She wants to get a piercing, whatever. Like, but there's other times you can catch me. I'm very happy. But really, the true thing, and I know you'll relate, is that my life has purpose and it's meaningful. So there's happiness and there's meaning. And the true contentment in life, I know this isn't like a belief, I know is meaning, a reason to
Yes.
wake up in the morning. That's something outside of yourself. It's not this hedonistic, selfish, internal, narcissistic kind of thing where I'm just going to
Yes.
be in this life and take from this world. That I'm bringing life into this world. I'm going to nurture that life, and then I'm going to make sure then they go out and they prosper and succeed. But and there's nothing more. God, like it's absolutely true. Where you see a parent, they're glowing and they're so proud when their child does something that's
Yes.
phenomenal, that's exceptional. You feel pride. You're not just happy for them. You're also happy that almost like this validation, like I've done something right at least. I just got that right because no one's perfect. Parenting is hard. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. It
It's
sucks
very tough.
sometimes, but it's the I tell people all the time, like, yeah, it does suck. It's really, really hard, but it's the most fulfilling job I've ever had. Like, it's the best job I could ever think of having. Like, I don't get paid in the traditional sense of where I make money. I have income, but I get paid in smiles, you know? Like, my kid wakes up, like my youngest, he wakes up every morning, like, okay, so when he has enough sleep, he wakes up every morning with a smile on his face. And his only job from the time he wakes up until the time he goes to bed is to have fun. How fucking cool is that? Like, instead of being mad at that, why don't we envy that? You know?
Yeah, well, it's about reframing things. It's a word I've been using, and I've been and a practice I've been doing with everything in my life for the past few years is I don't look at anything that ever like because you can reframe that, right? You reframe
Yeah.
it that it's beautiful, that the moments you're with them is just amazing, and it is. It's truly priceless. You can't ever get that back.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of like this thing where people are like, well, what are you going to think about when you're deathbed? Well, of course you're going to think about those moments, especially now when my kids are teenagers. Me and my wife are like very melancholy now, more so because one is 17, one's 15, and they're pretty much
Yeah.
independent. And what's interesting is my wife has gotten friends like, oh my gosh, she's always wanted to go out and be in it. She da 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 da. I'm like, actually, this is the reframing. This is a reframing example. I'm like, no, 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 you're missing the point. She's able to go out into the world. She's excited to be having her driver's license and driving and things like that. And she is not afraid because we've instilled her with confidence, with a
Yeah.
self-esteem that she can be independent. That actually is a sign that because she's like, well, they don't need us. Like that's what our job was to make sure they
Yeah.
don't need us. I said, that's the part. That's a reframing exercise. Of course, we want our kids to need us, and they're always going to need us at some time, and without a
Man,
doubt.
you just touched on something. I don't know. Like, so it's very, sometimes this podcast has a way of, I don't know if you believe in fate or destiny or anything like that, but sometimes on this podcast, I get guests who are like, bam, they get it. One thing I say all the time is, as parents, our job is to make sure that our kids can survive without us,
Yeah.
because eventually we're going to die. You know, I'm not going to be here very much longer. And I tell my kids that. I'm straight up honest with them, at 14, 15 years old, when they start screwing up, I'm like, hey, listen, you've only got a short amount of time to fix this shit. You got to start thinking differently. You got to start thinking, yes, I want you to live for the now, but I also want you to think about what that impact, because you're going to be here tomorrow. You have to live for the now, but you also have to keep an eye out for the future. And you can't do something now that impacts your future negatively. And I'm always telling strangers, telling my kids, telling anybody who will listen, my job as a parent is not for my kids to like me. My
Mhm.
job as a parent is to make sure that they can survive without me. And where I got that from is 11 years ago, my mom passed away, or 10 years ago, I guess. 10 years ago, my mom passed away, and I was 30 years old. I was still getting gas money from my mom, you know? And I stopped and thought about that after she passed away. It's like, holy shit, I don't have anybody I can go to ask for gas money anymore. And while that, like, maybe that's a selfish thing to think, but I was grieving in the moment, and all of those things that you think about that aren't going to happen anymore. And then I started thinking, holy shit, I'm 30 years old and I needed my mom to give me gas money. What the hell's wrong with me? And at that moment, it just, a lot of things started clicking for me. I started being more honest and open with my children. I started being more serious about the things that I taught them, and being more purposeful with my time.
Mm. I like that purposeful, because that's a hallmark, I believe, of a mature adult, is doing things with purpose. I know someone was joking with me. It's like, what is one thing you got out of the Marine Corps? It's like, man, I do everything with purpose. I get out of the car to walk in the grocery store. I'm on a mission, bro. Like, I do everything with purpose. And I do. My wife kind of laughs at me. Like, I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And, but yeah, isn't that something to, Bo? I'm so sorry about your, losing your mom. It's losing a
Thank
parent
you.
is,
Thank you.
it really, when I lost my dad, it was what, 15 years ago. It's hard to believe it was that long, but he was a great man. My old man was a good man, and just kind of taken from us pretty quickly. And you realize just how, like the world seems smaller to me. Like,
Yes.
all of a sudden
Yes.
there's this completely different perspective. It's like this person you kind of took for granted in some regards.
Yeah.
We do with our parents. We take them for granted. We rely on them for a multitude of things, and now they're not there. And then you literally you have that kind of an epiphany, this kind of moment, and you go, okay, all right, like life is for the living. That's the thing I've had loss in my life, and so that's this mantra that gives me strength. I don't stay in kind of suffering too long. I don't stay in
Yeah.
grief too long, because I realize I've got responsibilities as a man
Yeah.
to take care of other people. And like, okay, I deal with my grief, and then it's time to like move forward. Life's for the living. I need to, and I always like, this is the goes back to that concept of reframing. I look at even the dark times as opportunities to grow,
Yeah.
that I don't look at them as I'm a victim of something. I don't believe in victimhood, by the way. I had 100% like victimhood is just bullshit. It's a choice to be a victim, just so you know that. Even if something just happens to you, I take ownership of everything. I have this like concept, like I know Jocko Willink talks about it, but I've always believed in it too, this extreme concept of ownership of everything. Even if something just happenstance happens to me, I'll take it and I'll evaluate the incident, the event, or whatever it is, and then try to figure out how I can grow from it. What can I learn from it? And what was my
Yeah.
role? What was my role in that moment that could have led to it? Now, maybe I don't own any of it, but I like to take ownership of it, to examine it, not to beat myself up, not to put, again, not to, again, now I'm a victim of myself, to kind of going back to
Right.
the victim mentality, but just to maturely and reasonably, rationally examine it, so I can find whatever little piece of gold I can out of that.
Yeah.
I think every moment is an opportunity to grow. And I know some people can think that's a kind of a cliche way, but if once you make that your mindset, once that is ingrained in your brain, the world looks differently. You look at the
Hell yeah.
world in a completely different way.
Yeah.
For some reason, this goes back. My dad kind of instilled a lot of that in us boys and my sister. He always said, "Hoffs don't quit." And so that was like this. We had this family. Really had a family mantra: "Hoffs don't quit." Like, okay.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is like a part of our culture, and I love that. I love that we have this family line in this family history. And
Yeah.
my dad would always tell us about where we came from and who we were. And what that did is it created this culture in all of us that our forefathers did some cool stuff, did great things, that I then needed to carry that on.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that's so important to have a culture and family, to have a mantra, to have something that's an identifier for your children to be proud of that in when they're alone. My daughters now would say it all the time. And they live by it a lot of time when stuff's not going right, like hops don't quit. Like
Hell
that's
yeah.
right.
Hell
And
yeah.
it connects them, it binds us, it binds them together because then there'll be times that they're again having tough times. We're not there, that they fall back on that. They fall back
Yeah.
on this is who I am. It's an identity. I'm a Hopf. This is who I am. This is my family. This is my dad was, my granddad was that, my grandma was this. Like I'm part of that same clan, and I'm strong. And it's given them power and resilience. Something that's taking from cultures that I really wish American culture would do is Dios de los Muertos in Mexico. What
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
about the Dios de los the Day of the Dead, I think that's what it is.
Day,
Yeah,
yeah,
Day of
Day
the
of
Dead
the Dead.
is that it's not this Halloween kind of thing, and they're not glorifying death. What they're doing is they honor their family. It's a day they
Yeah.
come and you go and they have like kind of this makeshift altar, and there they have pictures of past family members,
Yeah.
and they sit and they talk about them. They remember them. I
Yes.
think that's beautiful. And again, it makes your children be connected to the family and know it's a part of their identity.
Right.
uh, I know I find such richness in that, and uh, again tying back to what you're saying about the meaning. I think it's important to give ourselves meaning. Being a
Yes.
parent, being a father
Yes.
has meaning, but then if we as parents can instill meaning in our kids, and I think it's through giving them an identity and an understanding of a culture, they're a part of something that's greater than them.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of things that you'd said that I identify with, like, personally, in my life, like passing things down from generation to generation. My mom taught me about, like, so we grew up really poor, and if we didn't shoot it, catch it, or grow it, we didn't eat it. Of course, we had certain government programs that we were part of that we, help sustain life or whatever. But for the most part, we pretty much took care of things on our own. And um, there was weeks where we didn't have electricity, years where we didn't have gas in the house, so there's that struggle there. And going back to the hard times create strong men and strong men create good times, there it's so multifaceted that I think the people that were given death threats over that, they weren't
Oh yeah, we didn't
taking
touch
that.
on that, did we?
Well, yeah, it's they were taking that for, they weren't dissecting it for what it means. And first of all, you said what it was in a fiction book.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, that right there just tells you what
And
kind of people you're dealing
they
with.
never, no one ever read it. They didn't understand the context of what it was said. When you look at, yeah, because I think I was mentioning it and then we kind of went off over here, which is fine. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
just having a free flowing conversation. The It sat out there for the longest time, and it was like a meme. It had been a meme before the book, and anyway, the it was the 2020 election. Some people prominently on the right got it and were using it and putting it out there. And then it became kind of this zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And then people are like, this guy, who's this Hoff guy? He must be some kind of a Nazi. And man, whoo, I was being like, I had people from, I think Axios was one, and some other kind of
No
media.
shit.
They're reaching out
Wow.
to me. They want to talk about it. And like, it's kind of these gotcha questions that media likes to do. Like, how do you feel, or do you feel responsible that neo Nazis are using your quote? Like, well, oh yeah, like I shopped it. Like I went and say, hey,
Right.
Mr. Neo Nazi, do you mind? Like it's like it was just, and it became kind of this because the right people on the right and the Republicans wanted to use it. That's fine,
Yeah.
totally fine. It's out there. It's out there in the world now anyway. The world can use it whatever they want.
There
Um,
is truth to it, though. I mean, there is absolute
well,
truth to it.
there's no doubt about it. And I think so. There's two things I think. Well, there could even be three, but I know there's two things at play. If someone reads it and they have a visceral reaction to it, they're essentially waving their hand, saying, "I'm the weak man.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm
Yeah.
over here. I'm so pissed off by this. I'm going to let you know that I'm that weak guy." and I'm going to tell you this is what it is. You also have this part that, like you were referencing earlier, like if you really dissect it and understand it, I was okay. So we want to make sure we always have good times. So how do we, what does it mean to be a hard man? What does all that mean? Let's define that. And what that means, I look at it as an individual who's virtuous,
Yeah.
right? Right? Who's selfless, who's there to take care of the greater whole. And there are protectors, there are nurturers. So they don't have to be men; they could be strong women.
Yeah.
There are nurturers, there are providers. Those are the people that do things in a selfless manner to create society, to keep it, maintain it. That are willing to die for it. It's those are the hard people. Those are the people that make sure we have good times. They go out and
Right.
they work hard. They again provide. You can label all that, and then the weak people are the ones that have been the beneficiaries of it. You
Yes.
see it today. You see it, and I'll give an illustration. You see it in the people that complain about capitalism on what typing it in a post on
Yeah.
Instagram on their iPhone while they're sipping a latte from Starbucks. Yet
Yes. Yes.
capitalism is evil, yet they're able to do all the things they have because they're beneficiaries of the capitalist free market system that people
Yes.
have built. And it's
Yes.
like they don't have a sense of awareness about who they are, what they are, where they're living, any contextual perspective at all about anything.
Or how they got there. How they
That's
got
something they
to,
have no
yeah.
idea. They have no idea. That's the thing. They have no idea, not just themselves in a contemporary sense, but just an historical context of how everything came to be. Like, I'm sorry, these homes weren't just here, the bridges weren't there, the conduit you were doing just magically exist. It took,
Right.
hardworking men like yourself to go out there, spend countless hours putting that shit in so then they can sit around and text about how horrible capitalism is. Like, it's
Yes.
like
Yes.
it's like they have no concept of any of this stuff, and it's like
And
it.
what it boils down to, man, I think that stuff, I think what that boils down to is consumerism is hard. It is hard to keep up with the Joneses. And
Mhm.
these kids, these newer, younger generations have grown up to where they have everything. And then when they get out of the house, they want to try to sustain that way of living, not understanding that they got to make sacrifices to make it happen. You know, you don't need cable if you're a young person. Why are you home? Like, why are you home long enough to enjoy cable? You know,
That's so funny. Yeah.
you know,
Dude, there was like a moment in my life. Go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry.
if you don't have kids, what the fuck are you doing home? Like, why are you there? Get out and go do something. You know, don't sit at home on your damn phone and bitch about what other people are doing about their lives. Go out and get it. If you want it, go take it.
Yeah, there was like this. My wife and I, we enjoy like watching movies together and stuff now, and but there was this moment in my time. There's like this black hole from like like 1988 until shit. It must be like 2003.
Yeah.
I didn't see any movies. Maybe saw one or two here and there, but I was just too busy working, too
Yeah.
busy just living, traveling, doing stuff. I didn't have cable. Like when my wife and I, we didn't have cable. We just had a DVD player, and we would like get some DVDs from like Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or whatever it was.
Right.
And but even then, we just didn't have it. We didn't even have shit. We didn't even have internet.
Yes, yes.
Like we just
And,
like it
and
was
kids today don't understand that you can live without that shit. You know,
dude,
and
I don't have social media anymore.
I hate social media, but I have to have it. I really
Do you?
despise social media.
I know, but I just say I would almost challenge you. There's a great guy out there. I can't now. I'm going to ask. I can't remember his name. He's came out with a book. I think he was on Rogan not that long ago. He's done several books, but his most recent was Digital Minimalism.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Check
I've heard
check
about
check it
that.
out. It's interesting. Like I've not seen. I purged my social media. I didn't delete my Facebook because I was getting ready to do it, and it had all these photos of my videos of my daughters and going back. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. So that
Yes.
one stayed. LinkedIn, and Instagram, all that stuff's gone. I do have an X account because I get there and sometimes I ramble and talk shit. But
That it's a great place for that.
And by the way, it's also a really good place, like a news source. If I
Yes,
hear about something, because I don't watch TV. In fact, actually, right now we don't have cable right now. If we watch anything, we just stream stuff. That's it. We just like
it's
I like the
almost
ability.
instantaneous on X.
Yeah, and so if I like I don't watch news. I don't watch the news at all. Like I don't have cable, so there's no Fox News, CNN. I don't watch any news at all. If I hear about something, I then will go on X, and because you're getting it like bam, and I'm able
Yes,
to know if it's not bullshit or not because you have people on the left or the right.
right.
Sometimes the right likes to pump a lot of bullshit out there and fake news too. So it's a game both play. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, and so you kind of have to kind of go through the weeds and find the truth. And there are some truth sayers on X that you can find if something's happening and I really want to find out what it is.
Well,
And so that's so
if you're good at doing research and stuff like that, you can usually tell it. And I know a lot of people will give me shit about this, but like I will listen to propaganda like purposefully, like
hmm,
United States propaganda, Russian propaganda. It doesn't really matter. I'll listen to it purposefully just to see what they're saying. And you can then
hmm,
suss out what's true and what's not in pretty much like if you're watching CNN and they start talking about a thing, there is going to be kernels of truth in what they're saying. It's going to be like 90% true. But you have to sort through their biases to understand what the real news story is. And
yeah,
I've found a great place to like ground.news is an app
I've
for
heard of
your
that.
phone.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I've
they
heard of that.
do all that. They do all that work for you. They let the biases show and everything, so you can be conscious of your bias while you're looking at things. And I do that all the time. I think um, even the people that talk shit on X or are putting out misinformation purposefully, if you're an intelligent human with an IQ over, we'll say 75, you could probably gather enough to know like, oh, that sounds like bullshit, or that sounds like it could be true, let me look into that more. And but people get so lazy and complacent, they don't follow up, they don't go and look for other resources that are saying the same things.
Well, it's and not the fault people because it takes time.
Yeah,
It also takes a true. You have this. It's like a true intellectual curiosity.
yeah,
You genuinely want to know like what is really going on. Like, and those like yourself are the people that are going to keep this country together because they're rational and reasonable people. Like you realize there's propaganda that comes from all sides, and there is because that's what happens when you become part of like the hive on either
yeah,
side,
yeah.
the kind of that team politics. You jump on a team, and no matter what is what a problem about team politics. And I don't even like labels anymore. It's like because
Me
I think
either. It's everybody,
everybody,
they've ruined it for us.
yeah. Well, it's just when you really think about it, I just like to. I guess if I'm going to give myself a label, I would just say I like to think of myself as a free thinking person.
Yes.
And I'm always willing to now, as I've gotten older, to examine kind of my beliefs. And if you look at anybody who's sincerely honest, sincerely, we're on a spectrum, right? There will be things that I like can believe in from a social, political,
Right.
and that could be maybe perceived left of center on some issues, and some I'm very right. I don't really go way, way, way kind of commie, kind of pink hair kind of shit on the left. I don't really go there, but I can find myself on issues, for instance, like education. I think education is really, really key for people. I'm not saying everyone has to do it. I do think that it is a societal responsibility to make sure our kids are educated,
Yep.
and we should be providing the resources and the places for them to get educated. And I think that is a government's role, 100%. It's where we collectively come together, we pool our resources to make sure our children have the ability. Now, that's socialism, really, as we look at
Yeah.
it. It's not privatized. And so I'm really a big believer in that. Now, at the same time, I want those monies managed effectively and efficiently. I don't want them pissing away our money. I
Yeah.
want like if I'm going to give you the money, if you're going to be the stewards of our cash, you better be open for audits. You better be open for Doge walking in your door,
Right.
right? And like saying, "Hey, where's the money?" I think that's I think that's reasonable to ask that they are, the good stewards of our money.
Yes.
100%. There's nothing wrong
Yes.
with that. And that's the issue. Like, you can't have a socialist big government without it being efficient, without it
Yes.
being accountable. Then you end up and it's ripe for corruption. And I think we've seen that now. I think we know now there's been a lot of corruption that's occurred. No, that's what happens in government. You get enough people together, they get corrupt. Whether it's a big corporation, they get corrupt. Whether it's a big government, they get corrupt. Let's say the bigger they get, they become these gigantic leviathans, and they
Well,
become corrupt
my problem comes from the people that allow that to happen and don't do anything about it. Nobody calls it
because
out
that,
anymore.
because they're part of the team. They're like that hive virus. They're on either side. It's like a team
Right.
politics. And this is the point I was going to make. When you join the team, you then actually you take your principles and you set them to the side.
Yeah, you essentially put yourself in a box.
You do, because if you've got some leader that you love so much, or some political party that you love so much, and something bad, they do something awful. Now you have a choice. You can either defend it or criticize it. And if you're part of the team, you don't want to be ostracized. You don't want to be said you're. So you tended to find a way you twist like a contortionist
Yes.
the truth, right? And you come up with this crazy ass gaslighting narrative to justify whatever insane thing that just occurred. But you have to
Yes.
defend them. And this is I hate that, and that's I know they call it politics, but I find it that I, I I can't trust people when they're like that. Like, what? I can't
Oh my
trust you.
God. Oh my
Like,
God.
how can I
Yes.
trust you?
Yes.
Like, you're taking something and like completely distorting it and making it something else, and or you
Exactly.
project and you try to say the person who's pointing it out is the bad person. Like, what's happening? It's
Yes.
we can go in we can take a deep dive in certain political issues on that, but it's I find that very disingenuous from people. I find like I can't trust them then. Like, wait a minute, you can't reasonably look at that and think that's bad. Like, come
Yes.
on,
Yes.
man.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where I started to go 20 in 2023 and 2024 leading up to the last election. Now, like a lot of people say I'm conservative because I openly love Donald Trump. I love that guy. And the biggest reason why is if I had to defend it, it was a term that I didn't even know until recently, but realpolitik. Donald
Mm.
Trump is he's a real guy. He looks at things for how they are, or I think I think when people forget that Donald Trump is a showman, so when he goes up there and says stupid shit, they take it for face value instead of he's playing a part, and because I openly say that, I think people think that I'm a conservative. In reality, I'm probably as close to the middle as you can get. I see both sides of a lot of issues, but I know that there's nuances in things, and not everybody understands those nuances. The immigration crisis. It's a big deal right now, and a lot of people don't understand why. It's about safety, honestly. They've lost 1,500 terrorists at the border between 2020 and 2024. 1,500 terrorists. And we have the
That's insane.
capability to track them down,
Of
but they
course, we have the
don't.
capability. Yeah, it's a matter of will. And see,
Yes.
this is the insane concept what I was talking about. When you're so devoted to your team that you lose
Yes.
any sense of like I can't trust you. Like, you defend insane positions.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
let's
right,
defend
there's wrong, and then there's just.
it.
Sometimes there
Like,
is that gray area.
what I've always like whenever I used to love to debate people on stuff. I'm so past that now.
Me too.
I just
Me
like,
too.
what I just like sitting like I just want a nice conversation like we're having now and just talk about stuff and agree to disagree and just like I think I've really matured in a lot of ways. Like, I'm not trying to force my beliefs on anybody. I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. But I find that when someone will take a position, say let's call it illegal immigration, I will then just ask them a question. What's that number?
Yeah.
100 million? Should we let so because the arguments, oh, these people are poor, they should let them in. We need so what give me the number. Tell me what that number is.
Yeah.
Is it 10 million? Is it 20 million? When do you stop? When do you then become the bad person? You have to put the wall up. Like, when is it when
Exactly.
you say no? You're going to
Exactly.
step in line and go, no, not more. You're done. We're done. We're done. Is it 100 million? Do we let the whole world in? Like we're like, and they can never answer it
Yeah, because
because they've demonized.
The
Yeah,
Statue of Liberty does say, "Bring me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses." It does say that, and then I have to remind people all the time that we didn't make that. That was a gift from France. Like we didn't put that on there. But back in the when Ellis Island was open and immigrants were coming through Ellis Island, you really had to have a purpose to be here. It wasn't that they didn't let just everybody in, even back then. And
yeah,
now what I see as a problem with illegal immigration is we don't know who's coming in and out. And
yeah,
that's a safety issue. And it wasn't a safety issue up until, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, but it is certainly a safety issue now, and things are very fluid, and we have to work on the fly sometimes. And letting that many people coming in that border unchecked is just dangerous as fuck, you know?
there's yes, there's a multitude of reasons why you can't allow that. It's dangerous because people aren't being vetted. It also is it's dangerous from an and now not everyone's going to agree with this. Big corporations, big ag farmers, and things like that are totally fine with it because it allows them. See, now this is where like I've departed from the traditional talking points of a Republican when I voted for George W. Bush in 2000. This is where I'm going to sound like I'm on the left. Now listen to this. What it does though is you're letting that many people in. Well, guess what? Big corporations are going to want to hire those individuals,
Yes.
bring them on, and then it really lessens what the average hardworking blue collar American can make
Yes.
because now there's all
Yes.
this cheap labor out there. It's flooded the market with all this cheap labor. Well, that hurts Americans. That
Yes.
hurts. There's what's insane, and I try to get people to understand this, and that I know people don't think it's sexy to be a blue collar, but blue collar people, the people that use their hands, the people that work, uh, that create, that build, that create the infrastructure, so we can. The fact that we're talking right now,
Yeah.
yes, somebody designed it in some lab somewhere in Silicon Valley, but it has to go from theory to then being implemented and then put into the infrastructure. And that takes an individual working like what you did, putting it in the ground so now you and I can communicate with each other. Right.
Exactly.
So that costs money. And those are skilled jobs. And when you flood a marketplace with cheap labor, well, companies, they want to make money. A company exists. So it does make money, it becomes an entity, it just wants to survive like any other entity, like an amoeba. And in order for it to survive, it needs more money, it needs to grow. So
Yes.
it's going to hire that cheap labor. And by the way, I don't necessarily don't, I can understand why a company wants to do that.
You've
I've done
got
that
you've
in the
got
past too, where I will shop where I get things done. Oh, he'll
yes.
do it for less. I'll go over there. So we've all become a part of it or guilty of shopping for cheaper labor or cheaper products or whatever that is. But the fact is, it creates this artificial marketplace that's not real, and it does destroy the talent pool that we have in our nation.
Yeah, try
It's
to
important.
explain that to the city leaders where I live, man. I keep telling them hey, why don't we build up another factory or two? Why don't you give some tax incentives, some big ass companies to bring some shit in here? And they keep bringing in restaurants, and I'm like, what? But what does a restaurant fucking produce? Nothing but fat people, honestly. I mean, and I think a lot of people don't really understand. Yes, it creates jobs, but they're not real jobs because
Mhm.
they don't produce anything. Restaurants don't produce anything. They have a product, sure, but they're really just repackaging a product that somebody else made, and those people are ranchers and farmers. And while I know that there is a need for restaurants, like there's a need for it. There's a niche, but maybe we don't need so many restaurants that we can't support those restaurants. And that's the
Yeah.
problem we run into with the city where I live. There's no support here. There's a couple big factories. I don't think this is a city of 75,000 people. an hour north of Kansas City. We got 40 square miles in this city. That's a big ass city for
Hmm.
75,000 people. And the largest company that we have here is 5,000 employees. That's it. And that's due to leadership. I mean, they don't under. Yes, you have to give tax incentives to large companies to get them to move here, but it doesn't have to be very long. They just want to help absorb the cost of building their shit. But it produces things. Like if you have a factory, you're making things that other people need or want. And if you have a restaurant, well, you're just not producing anything.
I don't disagree with you. Restaurants are wonderful. We need to eat. I get that.
Yes.
And it's nice to have variety. I mean, we're blessed that way now today. We have all this,
Yeah.
we're all this variety. Um, you know, a lot of these issues we're dealing with is kind of like relatively new when you look at kind of the human timeline, like all the stuff
Yeah.
we're kind of dealing with. But so people look at kind of globalism and think and believe that, oh, this is how it's always been. Actually, it's not. We look at post World War II America. We came out of there kind of the superpower, matched up against the Soviet Union, and so we made deals with a bunch of countries. We essentially created globalism. Like we'll be the police. We'll protect the sea lanes,
Yeah.
and so we can have trade, and we'll protect you. And so that's just then we end up with what we have today. This is, I mean, I'm being very elementary in how I explain it, but that's kind of where we are today. And things are have to go back because we've abdicated the responsibility for critical parts of our society, farmed out to other
Yes.
nations to build and to
And now
manufacture for us. It makes
now
us
they're using it as
vulnerable.
weapons.
Yes, and we're vulnerable. We should not be having pharmaceuticals manufactured in China. That's insane. Like, what are
Yes.
we doing? We shouldn't be having critical transformers for our grid manufactured in Japan. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And
It really doesn't. I've thought about these things a million times, and like, why do we do that? Like, why did that happen, and why do people not think that that's a bad thing that we can't get transformers? That is one of the things that really bothers me about globalism is like, did nobody think this shit through? Like, did you not prepare for, um, like COVID, for example? Like, did nobody think about that before it happened? Really, honestly,
I think there's very smart people um, in these companies, even in government. There's some smart people, and then there's some incompetent people, of course, same time. And then there's some people with just bad intentions. I think they've got them all there. But there's some smart people there, and I think that they discuss these things. I just think that they are just living for the moment. We're living just
yeah,
more short term, not long term. As if we're always going to be a world power. I mean, we're giving over critical parts of our society for manufacturing to someone as our known enemy. China is our enemy.
yeah,
From an ideological standpoint, they are 100% opposed to us.
yep,
And we now allow them to, like, they can turn stuff on. But at the same time, now we've got this mutually assured destruction with them. Like, they need to build for us or manufacture for us. If they don't, they die. Essentially, their economy is built upon us buying their shit.
yep, yep.
And
And that's exactly what it is. It's shit, man. Let's be honest. They don't produce anything that we need. They really don't.
they,
And
yeah,
that goes actually back to the tough times, the hard times, man. I don't know. I can't remember who said it, but like I think that we do need these tough times to come back.
it's well. If let's dive into it a little bit. So when you look at like Strauss Howe and their generational theory, they have there's
Yeah.
four turnings, right? And they would say that we are in. I was listening to I think Tony Robbins had him on his podcast, and then also uh, Bet David had him on too. I
Love
think
that guy
it's
as well.
yeah, yeah, amazing guy. I love him. I think he had Howell was on. I'm really missing a beat right now. I apologize.
Oh, no
So
worries, man. That
because one
happens
of
during
what Strauss
podcasts.
Howell, I think Strauss is dead. Anyway, so had him on. They were talking. He's got a new book out, and he's really kind of covering it. And we're we are in crisis right now. We are in the what they call the fourth turning,
Yeah.
right? And what that means is that we are heading toward conflict, bloodletting. Some kind of a war will
Yeah.
eventually occur, erupt. Now, this is where I do caution people, and I caution you, like we need this. Be careful what you wish for, because when
Yeah,
it
I
turns into
actually think
war,
we're right in the middle of it right now,
and
brother.
it
I,
turns
I
into like
actually think we're in the middle of it.
if it becomes a hot war, well, not all of us, some of us may not survive it.
It's
Like
already a
our
hot war.
children may not survive it. Like it can get, and if it's a world war, I mean, now we've got weapons that are insane.
Yes.
If it's a kind of a kinetic civil war, it can get really nasty. Civil wars are brutal. And again, people, I like be cautious, be wary, be prepared, because if it does go hot somewhere, you got to protect yourself. You got to protect
Yes.
your family, because then they become very, very vulnerable.
Yes.
And again, it won't be a movie. It becomes vicious. People will die. There's usually a lot of bloodletting, but then it gets to a point where then there's a victor. And now we
Yeah.
don't know who the victor will be. That's something that's undetermined as well. And we like to think that we're the good guys. Of course, we're going to be the ones that win. Well, we may not. We may not be the ones that are victorious in the end. I know
Yeah.
it sounds like I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but it's just like be very cautious. And this is something like where I went from like my young being a young man in the Marine Corps, like gung ho and motivated, kill, kill, kill. What makes the grass grow? Blood, to like
Right.
very I'm not pro war at all. Like I'm very like I guess again I'm not like a beatnik anti-war person, but I think war is destructive. It destroys lives. It destroys people. It destroys countries. It finances. It wrecks nation states. They're never the same afterwards. And so if we can get through this fourth turning relatively unscathed and get onto the and back to the first turning where things are prosperous and thriving, that would be wonderful. I If you were to ask me, am I optimistic that it's not going to be tough? I think it's going to be very tough. I think it's going to be very bad. I think, and I hope that our way of life is the one that succeeds and is victorious. Because when you look at, say, in our nation itself, we have two cultures right now that are trying to coexist, and you can't have two cultures coexist. We have a culture kind of built upon the founding of our nation that believes in a constitutional republic, that believes in a free market system, uh, and then there's a polar opposite that exists. That is the far left.
Yes.
Now, I'm not talking about just average. I'm not talking about your average Joe Democrat, your Bill Clinton Democrat, those kind of people. I'm talking about the far left, the far progressive left, or ideologically opposite everyone else. They're communists. They don't believe they believe in a more. They would say they believe in democracy, just like the People's Republic of North Korea. People's Republic. It's in name, not in practice. They believe in totalitarianism.
Yes.
They don't believe in true freedom of freedom of speech is only what they believe it should be spoken. So it's all bullshit. It's all fake. It's all just manufactured slogans. But at their heart, I think their heart is dark. I think they are almost like a death cult. And I'm going really deep here. I think that is and they comprise, I think, because of the internet and social media over the past decade plus, what Elon Musk talks about, there's this high mind virus that's captured a
Mind
lot of these
virus.
people.
Mind
It's
virus.
captured a
Yes.
lot of them, and now they're just walking in lockstep like brown shirts. You see it with the Tesla protest. Like,
Yes.
dude, are you serious? Like, what rational person believes this is good? That is that percentage. That's that culture that is completely opposite of our culture right now. They exist. We're on the same landmass,
Yeah.
and they're all vying for power. They're the
Yeah.
same people that think it's appropriate that a CEO of a healthcare company was assassinated. Now, do I think that we could have some more healthcare reform? Absolutely. We
Yes.
should have that conversation. Let's really talk about it. Are there some things that can be done that can make yes? But cheerleading for the assassination of an individual who was a father, who was a husband, who was just a man doing the job that he was hired to do, somehow that's justified because he works for a healthcare company,
Right.
is that's part, by the way, that's at those are our enemies of our culture. That's a completely separate culture that is at war with ours. And those are the two that are going to come head to head because you
Hell yeah.
can't coexist. You cannot. And again, this is different than like our granddad's Democrat Party. And even when we were young, they're not the same. They're
Right.
completely different and they're radicalized, completely radicalized.
Well,
And
I think there's a lot of subversion going on, man. I honestly think there's a lot of subversion going on, and it's being intentionally done. Um, and I see it everywhere. And when I see people that are captured, I can't I can't talk to them. You talked about it earlier, that trust thing. I can't talk to them because I don't know if they're fucking with me or if they're genuinely that stupid that they believe these things. You know what I
I,
mean?
I, yeah, like they're justifying like when I've seen, I don't actually know any of these people. For some reason, I've created a beautiful reality that it's like these
I
people don't,
actually know these people. Like
they
I
don't actually
walk around with
exist.
these
Like
people.
I know that they do exist, but I'm like, I've created this wonderful world where they actually don't create, they don't exist in my reality. Like as far as in my bubble, like I'm like, they just don't, they're not there.
But see, that's
But I
the
know
thing,
they
Jeff.
exist
If
because
you
I
walk
hear them
outside,
talking. What's that?
if you go to the gas station, for instance, if you go to the corner store and you just look around at all the people, nobody's hating each other. Nobody's
No.
yelling at each other. Nobody's holding up picket signs. Nobody's, like you'll see somebody with green hair and a nose ring holding the door open for somebody who's got a veteran's cap on.
Yeah.
You'll see that shit happen. And really, the only time I see a lot of division is social media. Now, how much of that is manufactured and how much of it is real? How much of it is people just talking shit and opening or venting their frustrations? And how much is it people actually advocating for communism?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of it's manufactured. I think when you look at like social media, like how much is bots, right?
Yes.
But how much is in it's like when people don't want to take the time to like lean in and educate themselves, they essentially take marching orders from the propaganda to say who they should hate. And it's hate and they dehumanize somebody. There's a book I read years ago. It was required. Actually, I think it was required reading when I was an NCO. It was called On Killing. I can't remember the author's name, but it's a deep dive into understanding the psychology of killing, right?
Yeah.
And what that means is, and the psychology mean like how do you take an 18 or 19-year-old man and get him to go kill people in a faraway land? Well, what you do is you dehumanize the opponent,
Yeah.
right? And you see this today, like that same psychology is being played out. For instance, here's an example of it. Like in World War II, the Krauts, the Japs, right? They're just some kind of moniker. We give them a gross name. We dehumanize them. It's much easier to kill when you're looking at the person through your scope. You can squeeze the trigger because they're not really human. They're not a father, they're not an uncle, they're not a son, they're just a whatever, they're a kraut. What you give them. So now you see it today, they're MAGA. I want to it's much easier to kill someone who's MAGA,
Yeah.
right? Then
Yeah.
maybe the MAGA guy is a father, maybe or he's an aunt or she's an aunt. Like these are people,
Yes.
right? And if you and I think I this is where I do have hope if like if we can like when you sit down with people that are reasonable to talk with, we all have so much more in common than we don't.
Yes.
Like, and that's the wonderful thing. And if you choose to look at life through that prism, you'll find that you have so much more in common with these people. And essentially, when I have had conversations, it's not often. When I do, I really like this just to ask questions now versus trying like I just mentioned that before. I just ask questions. I
Yeah.
do tend to get to the heart that they actually most of the time don't know much on the topic that they're talking about. They just have talking points, and when you ask the questions, to try to probe, like, how deep is this? Like, really, how deep is your conviction? It's not deep at all.
Yeah.
They're just been taught, or they've found a connection from an identity to connect to this group, and they want to stay part of the group. So therefore, they have to buy all the bullshit. They have to wear.
Right.
It's not like you can be part of the club, but you have to wear the costume and the hat and the pin. You got to do the whole thing. You're all in, and it's almost there's tendencies toward like a cult kind of concept too. Oh, you get
Yes.
this on the right too. You get this on the right. When I knew people that are die hard, like I mean, I like Trump. I like Trump a lot. There's things about him that's like, bro, what are you doing, man? Like,
He's
but maybe,
hilarious.
but then
He's
I
a
said, look,
trip.
maybe he's playing 5-dimensional chess, or maybe he just fucked up. Maybe he just fucked this up. And sometimes he does fuck up. No one's perfect. He's not. You're
No,
not. No one
I
bats a
did
thousand,
you
right?
have you seen Bill oh shit, Bill Maher.
Yeah,
He just did a like a dinner with Trump and they came out and talked about what it was like. That right there is Donald Trump. He is somebody completely different in
yeah.
private, and when the cameras are on, so is he. And he does that shit on purpose. And it's very obvious to somebody that used to be like I used to watch professional wrestling and the role of a heel, Donald Trump plays that role very well.
Isn't it fascinating? When I was talking with a group of friends, and it was like, if you look at the Republican Party today, the people at the top are former Democrats.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Donald Trump, right? You got Donald Trump. You've got Tulsi Gabbard. You've got RFK Jr. You've got, like, if there is actually a representation, the Republican Party. And again, this isn't me just like, this is me objectively looking at it, not saying look at Republicans were so great. I mean, just look at it objectively, like they actually represent like more of a cross section of America, because they're actually a mix of, you've got, was it Peter Thiel? I think he's like a libertarian. You've got, I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of, you've got this mix band of people. And by the way, they don't always agree with each other. It's like I think Trump, even Trump's cabinet, which I find fascinating, is kind of like this. Um, was it Lincoln had when Lincoln had his second cabinet? I think it was, or no, his first cabinet. It was a team of rivals, what they call it, because he put, like, Lincoln put together a bunch of people he didn't always agree with that were from all different factions, at that time. And
Oh
I think
yeah.
Trump has done the exact same thing. And people's visceral reaction to it was like, wait a minute, you're a Democrat, but you realize all these other people are Democrats too. They were
Right.
Democrats at one time. And why don't you try to understand why they aren't now? Like, why don't you just sit down and put aside your bullshit talking points and, like, really talk about this? And
Yeah.
Trump is he's an enigma. I always say that I tell my wife, he's an enigma. There's very few people like him in history. And I think Andrew Jackson was probably like him. You read about Andrew Jackson. Teddy Roosevelt, I think, had that kind of, carried a big stick kind of a thing. Uh, I'm saying he's not a carbon copy clone, but he's definitely an enigma. There's not very many people like him come around. Uh, I I like him a lot. Like, when he first went in, like, I was like, just take a sledgehammer to the whole thing,
Well, I
break
mean,
the whole thing.
to tell you honestly, man, nobody wants to hear about like let's just say a collapse actually happens, man. Let's just say a lot of people are going to die. That's just the way it is. We have built these cities around it. Like I don't live in one of those cities, but like Chicago is a good example. There's going to be a lot of people that die in Chicago just because they're starving to death. If a collapse happens, like we're talking like 1920s, 1930s collapse, there's going to be some deaths, but we'll come out of it stronger on the other side because of it. And what if we know it's coming, why don't we do something now to shore up those defenses and start preparing people like listen, if you only have 2 weeks worth of food right now, you might want to start learning how to grow your own food even if you're in the middle of a city, stuff like that, and kind of prepare these people for hard times.
It's hard to do that. Most people, it's normalcy bias. They don't want to think about those things. It makes them very uncomfortable. Okay. Here's what's something that when I started writing apocalyptic fiction, I did lots of research. If you ever read any of the books, it's really an exploration of the human condition, of human psychology, and why people do the things that they do. It's not necessarily about the events that occur. It's about taking a group of people or a subset of people and putting them in an environment and watching what happens to them.
Right.
And it's historical. People like lose their shit when something happens. When the normal day to day goes away, people freak out. And what's interesting to think about is if an event occurred and everyone cooperated and no one panicked, there would be no apocalypse. We would
Yes,
deal
you're
with the
right.
situation, working together to come out on the other side. But that is what never happens. So you have an event that turns the table upside down, and there's a subset of people that freak out. They panic. And why do they panic? Let's ask that question. Why do they panic? They panic because in their hearts, they know they're not prepared.
Yeah.
They know they don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
And they freak out because of that. It's like this is interesting. It's like throw someone in the water and doesn't know how to swim. It's their flailing around that pulls them under.
Right.
Most people, 99.9% of people are naturally buoyant. If you just relaxed,
Take in breath.
yep, you'll bob up and down. We
Yep.
did as an exercise when went through combat water safety swimmer course. He tied us up, arms behind our back, legs tied up, and threw us in the pool. And just relax, and you'll bob up and down. Your head will come up. You take a breath, and you kind of dip down, and you bob. That's it. You just bob up, and you don't have to move. You're never going to sink. But so the same thing. That's like an analogy. It's connecting to like if an event happens, the reason there's chaos, the reason there's apocalypse, the reason there's riots and violence and bloodletting is that certain group of people, or is that kid, or the person who doesn't swim is flailing in the pool. They just relaxed and they all work together. And someone wasn't greeted, but there wouldn't be bloodletting, there wouldn't be riots, there wouldn't be destruction. But it's going to happen because it only takes 10% to cause total chaos.
Right.
You have 10% of the population. Think about it. Look at the numbers. 300. Just to say, do around 350 million people. Well, you take 35 million people and have them go ape shit. The whole system breaks.
Yes.
There's not enough military, not enough law enforcement. There's not enough people to stop 35 million people from losing their minds.
Right.
So they lose their minds. Everything just goes to shit. And then that 35 that number of people that's in conflict increases because that they're taking on somebody. They're going after your resources, coming after mine. They're doing, and then that just grows and grows and grows. And then you just have a regional, state, national collapse, and no one can do anything about it. But it's the lack of preparedness. And I've tried to have conversations with people about this. Everyone has car insurance. Some people have life insurance, but insurance is, most people can understand the concept. Being prepared is just an insurance policy.
Yes. Yes.
It's all that it is. Learning skill sets are valuable. Having a mindset, I mean, training your mind to deal with stressful situations is also a resource you should fall back on and prepare for. Like what that means is be very comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. A lot, like people say it,
comfort kills, man.
the
Comfort kills.
Russians, people say the Russians, they suffer well. We need to get good
Yeah.
at suffering. We need to suffer well.
Yeah, and it's our comfort that's killing us as a society in some regards too. It's one of those things. It's like it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay, and it's good uh, to actually thrive in it. And that makes you a hardy person. It makes you a strong person. When you grow up being poor, it's very uncomfortable.
Yes, I
Very
seek out
uncomfortable being poor.
I
By the way,
seek
we all
out
go through. Yeah, go ahead.
I seek out discomfort, man. Uncomfortable situations, when I make it through them, like it gives me some sort of high. So difficult things, like for instance, this podcast, like I've told people a million times, I'm not educated. I'm almost computer illiterate because like I've been on a cell phone, like a smartphone for almost 20 years. And so all my computer skills have atrophied. And it's very difficult. Like it was very difficult for me to start these conversations and want to move on to the next one, and that difficulty is what keeps me doing it. And I get some sort of a high from doing difficult shit and getting through it, you know?
Yeah. And by the way, I would just encourage you not, because I don't have a formal education, but are you educated? Of course you are. You have skill
Right,
sets.
right. That's
You have
actually
knowledge base.
I'm not
It's
formally educated. So
yeah.
yeah, I do
I
I do look at myself as like an intelligent, educated person,
Of
but
course you
when
are. I'm
I'm
having a conversation with you, and we're
right,
having an intelligent, rational, like, and we're having it on tech. So clearly, you have enough tech savvy. You're here.
right,
So like
right.
you've graduated enough to like here you are. You've got a podcast. It's doing well. Like so clearly, there's a skill set. There's an intelligence that's there. I think that we've been lulled into this concept of being like are you educated or not? I just have high school. That's all I have, and it
Yeah,
blows
I know
people's
people with
minds.
I know people with college educations that I would not trust to do anything.
Yeah.
I know these people like they're not even good at their jobs. So it's I know people that are I'm like I don't know. Babysitting my kids is one thing. Like I can't I don't have a big village, and I can't just drop off my kids with somebody that like my youngest has autism and he has to be looked after all the time. That's just there's no way around it. If something happens, I would never forgive myself, you know.
Mhm.
And my brother will say, "Hey, you know, you always have me. You can always call." And I'm like, "I know, but I know the kid's going to be okay. I know he's going to survive it, but what kind of shape is he going to be when I get him back? You know, what kind of shit is he going to learn at your house? You know, or what kind of, you know, trouble is he going to get into?" And I worry about things like that because it's difficult to hand off the trust and care of your own children because like
Mhm.
I see the way everybody else is growing up and I don't like it, you know, and I do trust my family members. I do trust my friends, but there are a lot of educated people that have graduated. I know people that have graduated college and I know these people in my daily life that I would not trust with my cats, you know. I mean, that's just a bare, and that's where we talk like educated versus non-educated. I've actually been called out for that before on the podcast, and I only say it, you know, in the sense of I'm not formally educated, but I do in my heart of hearts, I actually believe I'm more intelligent than 95% of the people I come across.
I would. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. And it's just because based on our conversation, the breadth of knowledge and depth of knowledge you have, geopolitics, on just the human experience is there. And then, I mean, I don't. I mean, then you've already mentioned your skill sets, what you were doing when you were working, a
Yeah,
job, um, and and I actually take pride in it now, and it blows people's minds because I always get asked, like, I've written 40 novels, I have two publishing companies, I've had great success for being someone who's not educated. And I actually take pride in it now. Like, I tell people, like, they'll ask, like, oh, where'd you go to school? Did you get a degree in creative writing? I was like, I said, I didn't go to college. Like, what? It flips the
college is for
script.
dumb people, man.
But it flips the script because they've been told there's this conveyor belt you get on life and you've got to go this way in order to have success, in order to be happy, in order to have stuff, in order to like I'm pretty successful. Like I have nice things. I've built a great life. My wife hasn't worked. I mean, when you're talking about going back when my wife is like incredibly successful when she was working as real estate, like incredibly successful, like did incredibly well. And like as soon as she was holding our first daughter, I remember we came by the nursery and she had this whole plan. I'm going to go back to work after blah, blah, blah. And we had this big debate over it. And I'm like, I don't know. I think you should take more time. Anyway, all it took, and this is something I try to practice with people. I don't try to control people. I just usually I will talk to them about what I think. And then I let people just kind of sit in their own thing and let it marinate. And I think just the experience themselves will go, hey, yeah, I think it was right. And I don't need the credit for it, but we had this conversation. Like I was thinking, I think you should stay on for a lot longer. Boom, I come out like I think Scarlett is. I think she was my wife was home for like one day. I'm walked by the nursery. She's in the little rocker, She looks at me and she goes, I'm not going back. I'm like, what do you mean? Goes, I'm not going back at all, ever. I can't leave her. I'm like, okay. She goes, you need to
I
handle it
know how
all.
she feels, bro.
And she goes, you need to handle it all. I'm like, okay. Now, internally in my brain, I'm like, oh shit. Because I mean, by herself was pulling down 6+ figures easy. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yes, I got
But
some
what is it?
hell of some shoes to fill.
But you can rise to the occasion. It's don't panic. I always this Jocko thing, like I good. And I was doing that years ago.
I
Like,
love that.
good,
I love that, man. That's
good,
my favorite. That's my favorite
good,
thing. I listen to that all the time. Good.
good, good. And it's like it goes back to that reframing exercise. Like this something great's coming from this. Something amazing will come from this. I will figure this out. I've got this. I
Hell
will
yeah.
figure this out. Not saying it's going to be pretty. Not saying won't be some bumpy times. Not saying we won't be broke now and then. But there's a difference. There's broke and there's poor, right? Right? Broke, a poor is a permanent state and ends up becoming a permanent state of mind. Broke is everyone. At one time or another, you're just broke. And then all of
Yes.
a sudden you're not broke. You're flush, right? So it's like I just like good. And I remember that, and she all that weight went on my shoulders, but I got big shoulders, and she never went back to work, never went back to do her job. She took care of the kids. She's done an incredible job, and the girls are beautiful young women. They're just blossomed, and having her be with them and nurture. Kids need a parent. They need someone there to nurture, and you can't. It's priceless. It's like what you're doing. It's priceless for
And a
those
lot of people
kids.
think you always have to be nice. Like I'm never nice. I'm never.
No, you're the parent. Like,
I feel like I'm the bad guy all the damn time. But like that, and I've got three boys, man. And as I've got four
you've
kids
got some
total.
big
I
shoulders, my friend. You got
Yes.
some big shoulders.
It's one of the things that I like to parent with some toxic masculinity. I know like people don't like hearing toxic masculinity. I don't know what toxic masculinity really is. I think there's
It's
masculinity and then there's whatever else. And
yeah.
I don't like to call labels on things, but something I say to my kids sometimes, and I caught myself doing it the other day and it stuck to me like, hey man, that's a good philosophy for everybody. I do it with myself. I say it with myself. If something happens and somebody's afraid to do something, I look at them and I say, well, you can't be a pussy all your life, and I say that about myself too.
Yeah.
When I'm having a difficult time with something and somebody's like, "Hey, would you like some help?" I can't be a pussy all my life. I got to buckle down and I got to get it done. And I'm more self-critical of myself than anybody ever can be. So, you said something earlier that I kind of want to go back to, like ownership, and I keep forgetting to go back to it. Ownership. I love to own everything that I do, mostly so nobody can use it as a weapon against me.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And that's
you disarm them. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yep.
And like I've done a lot of shitty things in my past, but those are things that, I've done. They don't define me. It's how I dealt with
100%.
those things that really defines who I am. And I'm not that
Mm-hmm.
person anymore. I've grown. And another thing that you touched on a little bit, and I think this is where you were going. You didn't directly say it, but you don't have to stop learning when you get out of school. As a matter of fact, I did most of my learning outside of school, and I had a very smart educator tell me one time that 90% of the learning happens outside the classroom. And that was my middle son's kindergarten teacher or first grade teacher that told me that, because I was stressing out that I wanted to take my kids on a vacation, a family vacation in the middle of the school year. And they have attendance requirements here. And if you don't meet those attendance requirements, you get in trouble, this, that, and the other thing. So I wanted to go to the school and make sure it was okay with everyone. And they knew, like, look, we're not going, we're not going out of town to go to a hospital. It's a vacation. It is what it is. It's a vacation. We're going to get away. It's a vacation. And I said, we will be doing some, educational stuff while we're gone. We're going to go to, museums because that's kind of my thing. I like museums. I like old shit, love history. And I really like that my kids get into it too. And she's like, hey, that's perfect. That's an educational trip. And she's like, actually, 90% of education happens outside the classroom. And held on to that. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So knowing that, boy, I got to really start doing my job at home because like my kids are going to grow up dumb if I don't step in and help them.
It's and doing that. My wife and I did the same. We did exactly the same stuff. We would take them out of school to even just like during the middle of the week, like, hey, why don't you guys just stay home when they were in elementary school? Like, why don't you stay? Let's go do something fun. Let's go have fun. Let's connect. There's a place called Dave and Buster's around here. Like that was became our thing. Like on Wednesdays, they had like half price games. Like, hey, you guys want to go to Dave and Buster's? Yeah. And it's like they're not maybe not learning anything from it. Like, but what they're doing is I'm getting an experience. They're getting an experience with me. They'll always remember it, and it's like it becomes kind of this. Again, it's part of that. I'm really big about. Yes, our kids should be educated, and I believe in that. But when they're so young, it's like really. I'm grounding them in the culture of our family, and this is the things that we do. We're very tight, and I just enjoying them for what they are when they're at that age, because they're not going to be there, and like they are
Yeah.
now. So those are the moments I do miss. But now I'm so open, and I've reframed it. I'm enjoying the season of the life they are today, and I was like, I'm really big about my health and fitness now because I'm all about longevity because I want to be around. What my mother-in-law asked me, goes, Jeff, what's like on your bucket list? Like, what's something you want? I go, I'm excited to like live another 30 plus summers, hopefully, where I get to like know my grandchildren.
I
And
was
my
just
kids
getting
aren't even
ready to
anywhere
say that.
close.
I
I know
was
that's
just
the
getting ready to say
craziest thing.
that.
People are like, really? You don't want like a widget? You don't want a car? You don't want like no, like I would like to know them, not just to hold them. Like my dad only met Scarlett when she was a baby and then passed away not that long. Never knew Savannah. And that's like haunted me. I was like, that's because he's such a they've missed out on
Yes.
the joy that was him, of the man that he was, that like they lost that. And I'm like, I don't want my grandchildren to lose that. So I've quit drinking. I really take care of my health because I'm looking for the longevity. Like I want to be there, not just for my girls, but I want to be there to know my grandchildren whenever, if they bless us with many grandchildren, have plenty, tons of them. We'll take care of them. It's fine. Like have plenty of grandchildren. I would love big family, kids everywhere. And my wife's all into that to like, yeah, have five, have six. They're like, you're crazy. But I just want to know them. I want to be with them. I want them to know me. I want to have that experience. Again, diving more into that culture of family, let them know who they are. And I think family for me is everything. It's everything. Everything else is stuff.
Yes.
You can always
More
buy
than
more
more than
shit.
stuff, it's shit. That's
Yeah, and you
exactly
can
what it
buy
is.
it
Is shit.
again. You like I look at it like it's like it's just stuff. Like there's something that really sticks with me is when my brother-in-law died. He committed suicide, and when we were going through, I ended up finding him. That's a whole other horror story, but one that I've actually grew from. Again, going back to that, reframing it. What can I take from this to become stronger, to become better? And there was when we were going through his house, and we were shutting his house down. We are going to sell it. This is after the fact, of course. And then there was this bottle of wine we found in this a very expensive bottle of wine. And I remember the family got into a fight one night because my mother-in-law was like, "Let's open this," and he's like, "No." And then like this spat happened over this stupid bottle of wine. She wanted to open it. He didn't have much wine at the house, and she wanted to open it. And then, of course, then that killed the evening. And then everyone, and I was looking at that bottle of wine and said, "Remember this bottle of wine?" And my wife's like, "Oh, yeah, that caused that big fight that night." I'm like, "For what? For what?"
Let's
Like, you know what I'm
drink
saying?
it.
Yeah. So, well, we ended up doing that. But the point I'm making is it's consumable. It's meant to be
Yeah.
consumed. It's not like I'm poor. I can like
Right.
I can get shit. I can buy. It's like it doesn't mean anything. So we have stuff at the house, and I don't drink anymore. Even when I drink, I have like a ton of whiskey, like some nice varietals, nice stuff. People come over like, have what you want. Well, it's not opened. I don't give a shit. Open it up.
Yeah.
Like, really? I don't care. It's like, one, I just don't drink anymore. But two, it's like, it's meant to be consumed.
Right.
It's meant to be taken in. And if I need another one, I'll buy another one. It's just stuff. What
Yes.
it can't replace is the moment we're having. You can't buy that moment. You can't buy the moment of
Right.
us sitting around and you're having a nice glass of whiskey and talking. We're sharing stories. We're amongst family. You can't buy that. I can
Right.
buy another bottle of whiskey. I can buy another bottle of wine. I can buy this. I can do that. I can do whatever. I can get it or I can make it. Whatever it is, it's stuff. But you can't buy that experience.
Right.
Really,
Right.
that
And
moment
I
in
love
time.
every bit of that, man. Like my mom passed away. When my mom passed away, she didn't have very much. Um and this stupid thing, the Easter before she passed away, we were supposed to go to her house for an Easter dinner, and she didn't feel good, and so she had all this stuff prepared, and she's like, you know what? Can you meet me at the Big Biscuit, which is a restaurant here in town? Can you meet us at Big Biscuit? We'll just do we'll do the lunch over at there, and then we'll come back here and we'll do an Easter egg hunt, and then you guys can take the food home. I'm not really feeling all that well. And I was like, yeah, we could do that. Well, when she sent me home with stuff, she sent me home with 2 jars of pork gravy. I had never heard of jarred gravy before, and I'd never heard of pork gravy. I didn't know that was a thing. And keep in mind, like this was 10, almost 11 years ago. And we still have those jars of pork gravy in our cabinet. And for whatever reason, I'm holding on to them, but I'm not that attached to them. Um, and she also had some cups, and one of those cups got broken. And the kids expected me to freak out and get sad and stuff. And I'm like, well, mom didn't use those things because the mom thought, they were pretty. Those were special to mom, and I prefer that we use them. Like if it gets broken, it gets broken, whatever. But I prefer we use them. Mom was holding on to them for her reasons, and these are my reasons. And so when stuff like that happens, I don't get like really all that upset about it because it is just shit. The things that I hold on to more dear about my mom, number one is the shit she taught me growing up. Like,
Mhm.
um, my wife makes homemade bread now. Like we haven't bought bread in like 6 months. We're kind of getting prepared for those tough times. Um, we haven't bought bread in like 6 months. My wife makes all the bread because I grew up that way and my mom taught me how to do those things. If my wife wasn't making the bread, I could make it. I know how. I know how to can food. I know how to grow food, more importantly, but I know how to can food for storage. I know how to smoke meat for storage. I know how to brine meat for storage. Those are all things that I learned trying to get through the winters of a Midwest winter with no gas. So um, it really is like those things are the things that I cherish the most about my mom, and those are the things that I can pass down to my kids that aren't shit.
Yeah. And what's great is how you've reframed. You say you grew up poor,
Right,
but then there's what look at all the things that have value
right.
that came from a poor childhood. That actually, like, if you were to have to go and be taught those skills, you'd have to pay money
Yes,
to
yes,
somebody or take time, which is a resource, to learn that. This is what I always try. There's always opportunity. There's always value and nuggets in everything that we think. If we define it as bad, therefore it's bad. If we
yes,
define it, this made me good. This taught me things. It was valuable. See, value and poor, like people would never put those together. But you
yeah,
just laid out a list of skill sets that are valuable that came from a time of being quote unquote poor.
right.
It's I, everything is how we define it.
And really, my
And then
mom had the
you,
time of her life teaching us this shit. Like my
yeah,
mom loved to fish, like she really loved to fish. I didn't like it when I was younger. She didn't make me. She just wanted me to learn how to do it. So those are skills that I can pass on to my kids. I haven't yet. We don't go fishing. I've never taken my kids fishing, oddly enough, but it's a skill that I have because that's something that my mom used to enjoy. And I didn't look at it as a skill, but she did. We ate what she caught, you know? So it wasn't, it was very valuable for me to know those things, even though I didn't know what I needed to know them for, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah, we don't know. This is why I think it's important to be aware, have an awareness of things. There's a saying like, if you believe in ghosts, you'll see ghosts, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like anything. Like, do the test. Like, do the test. Do the test. Like, I just want to see white cars. Everywhere you go, you'll see a white car. You'll see
Yes.
white cars everywhere. Like, if like you ever notice you buy something, or say if you buy a new car, and now suddenly you see that car everywhere too,
Yes.
right? It's because so this is where it's important from a mindset that only see opportunity out of anything, good and bad, because then you will see opportunity. Once you train yourself, everywhere you go, you'll see the opportunity. Your brain will be, and once you're trained to it, you see opportunity everywhere, and
Right.
then abundance flows from that. And that's like I trained myself years and years, decades ago to that way. And I'm just sometimes it annoys my wife, but I'm like always finding opportunities and then leveraging opportunities and doing this. I've got my hands on a bunch of different things just because I find it exciting to create. I think
Yes. Yes.
think about what you're doing. Think about what you've got with this podcast. Legacy. I know people you may not look at it that way, but
I
it's
actually do. It's
legacy.
one of the
You do.
reasons. One of the reasons.
That's good because you're leaving a digital footprint that's going to exist forever until it's ever destroyed.
Yeah.
That your children, your grandchildren can look back on. There's dad, there's grandpa. They look at great grandpa. Look what he did. Look at all this stuff. Look how wise he was. Look how stupid he was. Whatever that is. But regardless, you've created a legacy because you're creating something in this moment right now. Right now, you and I are creating something, and
Hell yeah.
you're continuing. That's legacy. I love that word. I adopted that word as part of my whole little thing too. Like part of my identity is like creating legacy. So I've done that with novels. I do it with creating other people's books. I'm getting into video production. I'm into a lot of different shit. And it's just because I like creating. And then it didn't exist one day. Now it exists today, and I nurture it and it grows, and then it produces for me. And like, this is amazing. There's another income stream over here. It's just because I keep my eyes fixed on opportunity no matter what happens. That doesn't work, but I know there's a door open. Oh, there's the door because my eyes are open to look for the door that's open.
Right.
So many people can lose a job and they just stare at the door that's closed on them. It's like, no, no, no. That door fucking closed, but there is always, I don't know if it's a universal truth, God, what, there's always a door that opens the one when one closes. Sometimes there's more doors that open, but all you're doing is staring at that fucking closed door. You're not going to see the other ones that are open.
Exactly. Exactly.
This
And
is
when
another,
most people lose the job, they don't, it's not really the job that they're concerned about. It's the money that they've just lost
yes.
or the insurance. Oh, what am I going to do now? And I'm like, well, fuck that job. I was looking for a job when I found that one.
Well,
That's my philosophy on it. And if I'm not happy somewhere, that this is why I love capitalism. If I'm not happy in a job, well, guess what? That guy down the street's hiring too, and I can take my skills there.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I'm not discounting if someone are going through financial pain or someone's having
Right.
some disruption. It's uncomfortable. But going back to what you and I've talked about, if you train yourself to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, you can navigate those waters of discontent and discomfort easier. So then you go from this to you fold space time in many
Yeah.
ways, right? You can get there to here and find a new job quicker because if you're not like you navigate that shit way quicker. You don't
Yes.
your
Yes.
emotional state is calm. You go like you think clearer when you're calm and you're relaxed and you're able to operate effectively and efficiently in discomfort. And you can lose that job and then like, I got this. Good, good. I
Yes.
got this.
And then
And,
at that
and
point, you don't even
and you'll
think,
figure it
you
out.
act.
Everybody does. Most people always 99 point always find another job anyway. And
Yeah.
lots of times that job is typically better than the one they had anyway. That
Yes.
happens. There's King Solomon from the Bible. I always try to tell this to people. They get some people will get upset. They like to stay marinated in their victimhood, and they get very defensive when you try to tell them that like pull up the it's okay. Like, well, you don't know my pain. Okay, I didn't mean to attack your victimhood, but the because it's like becomes an identity form. But so
Yes,
this
yes,
is something that's always inspired me was King Solomon, richest guy in the world back at the time, right? 700 wives, all this kind of stuff. And but you would think the richest guy in the world wouldn't have problems because he's so rich. Well, he did. He would have issues. He'd have problems. And so he had a gold ring, and inscribed on the gold ring was said, "This too shall pass."
damn,
And what
that's
that means is that anytime we're going through something, it's just time and space. It's going to pass. And going back to what I said before, if you train yourself, you have the mindset to navigate and to live comfortably in discomfort and uncomfortable, you close that space and time. So you're not
yes.
there that long and you react better. You can navigate and pivot. You're not sitting there wallowing in your own shit and anger and whatever. You just don't sit there. Okay, fine, they fired me. This is a good story. I know we're probably running out. I'm probably dragging you on too long,
No, man,
but there was,
I love this shit. You keep going as long as you want because I mean to tell you honestly, I'm down for 2, 3, 4 hour podcasts. It's
okay.
just it's difficult to find. Man, I'll talk to you about it off air, but it's I as a podcaster, you run into some. There's a lot of bullshit out there. Let's just put it that way.
So this is a good illustration, and I've been fortunate to like again. I attribute my father. My mom was amazing as well, but my father had an influence on me and really taught me some core value systems that I clung to, and I would observe the world in a certain way. It's observing. Everything's about observing, and I observed the world in a certain way. And later on, I took some good. I found some other teachers and mentors. Tony Robbins, I love Tony. Got to know him, took his stuff, changed my life. And there's some other teachers that are out there that I've really dove into for self improvement and changing the way I think and so optimize myself, so to speak. Anyway, I remember before I'd taken any of this stuff, I was a bodyguard. I was living in Florida. That's why I was living in Kansas City. So I was doing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And the 2 weeks on, when I was working, I was in Sarasota. I worked for a family. There was like 37 of us as a protective detail. I worked for so the detail was broken into several different smaller details. You had a protectee detail that worked for the old man who was
Right.
an expat. I worked at the family's compound. I worked in the command post agent, 12-hour shifts, blah, blah, blah. Well, and I was living with two other guys that were on the detail. We lived in Venice, Florida, in this rental house. And I was working the night shift and 12-hour shift. I get back, it's like 8 in the morning, whatever it was. And I'm drinking a beer, sitting out in the backyard. And the other guy who wasn't on, it was just 2 weeks off. His name's Kevin, was there. We were sitting there drinking, talking shit. And this other guy, Scott, came out and he's like visibly upset, like on the verge of tears. And like, bro, what's going on, man? Have a beer, relax. And he's like, we just got fired. I'm like, what? He goes, I just got the call from Jim. They fired all of us. I'm like, shut the fuck up. No, they fired all of us. Like, that's impossible. Why would they do that? They're exposed. It doesn't make sense. Why would they fire all of us? And he goes, they did. And so Kevin, like, come on, we're gonna find out what's going on. He goes in, he comes back, yeah, they did. They canned us all. You're gone, Hoff. You're gone. We're all gone. Like, I start laughing. I'm laughing my ass off. Kevin is pissed. He's angry. He's fucking smashing about. And Scott starts crying. So
Wow.
I'm sitting right. I'm laughing, and Kevin's like, "What the fuck are you laughing at, huh?" I'm like, "Dude, like it's crazy. Like, what the? I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, I guess I'm going home. I guess I need a flight." Anyway, I'm laughing. He's mad, and so later on, I started thinking about you had one incident, three different human reactions, right? So it's about how we react to a situation. You as an
Yeah.
individual. Kevin was furious, like angry, and he was kind of an angry guy. So that's how he responded. I was laughing in kind of disbelief. That's what I do when stuff happens. I'm like, just kind of laugh. And then I start processing. It's going to be okay. That's why I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm always okay. That's how I believe that. Like I'm going to be
Me
okay. It's going
too.
to be fine.
Me too.
And then Scott was like so distraught. He's literally crying. He didn't know what he was going to do for a job. We were making good coin too. We were making good money. This was back in 1998, no, 97, 98. And like we were making really good coin back then.
Really
And
good money.
yeah, we were making good money working for this family. And he like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, it's gonna be good. Fuck you, you don't understand. Like again, that's when people are like defending their victim. They want to like
Right.
keep they don't want me to take them out of their wallowing. Scott wanted to stay there. I don't understand. Like, I just got fired too, bro. Of course I understand. I just got fired. You don't understand. Anyway, so I went back and started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, three different reactions. And it was crazy. I knew I would be okay. I didn't have any emotional reaction to it at all. I remember I went back. I had just gotten separated from my wife back then. So I didn't go back directly to Kansas City. I went to Maryland to go visit my parents. I'm just going to hang out, and because my dad's always good counsel. Like, Dad, what would you do? Blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you know what I need you to do? I need you to see that shed out there. I need you to go paint that. I'm like, okay, I'll do it because I knew what he was doing. He goes, you need to go think, and
Yeah.
a good, painting and thinking are like go hand in hand. Like that's
Yes.
what you do. You're
Yes.
painting, you're thinking the whole time, right? And I was like, after painting this shed, concrete, it's like cinder block shed, and I'm like, yeah, things are gonna be okay. I'm painting, drinking beers, I'm playing. It was just a great summer. And like a couple days later, I get a phone call, and actually it was a beeper. I remember I had remember beepers.
Yes.
As
Yes.
I get this, I get that's what it was. I got my mom goes, your beeper's going off, and like I called the number, and it was this guy I had done a detail with on my first time as a protective agent, Chris Simovich. He goes, hey, I hear you're available. Like, how did you know? He goes, it's a small world, Hoff. There's not many of us out there. He goes, how would you like to? Well, how would you like to work out in Los Angeles? I'm like, sure. What you got? And he tells me about this thing. He goes, I'm forming this new outfit, Ronin Services International. I'd love for you to be a part of it. We got our first details out in Los Angeles. If you can make it, I'm like, I'm on it. And like
Hell yeah.
within like, so I got fired, and it was instant. Like we got terminated. Gave us like this. I think we got like 3 months salary severance or whatever. But I was like right back working within 2 weeks. And I literally attribute that to just my mindset, to just like, I mean, I'm not saying it's like law of attraction or anything, but I just knew I'd be fine. I knew something would happen. I didn't panic. I never panic. And things just
Yeah.
lined up. I didn't even reach out to anybody. He reached out to me. Chris reached out to
Hell
me.
yeah.
And I ever since then, I was like, man, there's something to how you think. Like there's something to it.
Exactly.
There's something to it. I was in my, how old was I then? I was like 26, 27. And I was like, it's something to do with how you think. I hadn't yet, the light bulb completely hadn't gone off in our heads. I don't think men really grow up until they're like late 20s anyway. Like that light
Yes.
bulb goes
Yes.
up, like, oh, this is the world. It looks so cool. I think we're just too busy like breaking shit and doing dumb stuff. That's what guys do.
Absolutely.
I'll
Absolutely.
just say that for myself. I remember sitting in a bar in Kansas City in Westport. I'm sitting having a beer, and all of a sudden, I literally feel like someone that turned the light on. I was like, oh,
Yes, those moments
that's how
happen
the
to me
world
all the
works.
time. Those moments happen to me all the time. And your story actually reminds me of when I actually lost my job and became a stay-at-home dad. When I was fired, and that's ultimately what happened was I was fired. I was burnt out. I wasn't enjoying the job anymore. I wasn't making the boss any money. I was working a shit ton of money overtime. So I was making money, but the company was losing money on my operation. And I knew it, and I was carrying all that weight, and I wasn't happy. And when I got fired, the only thing that I was worried about is disappointing my wife. That's
Yeah.
it. I wasn't worried about the money. Had gotten to that point where I was like, man, I don't like this job. So when I got fired, it was kind of like a relief to me. And I had plans to do other things, but I was going to take a month out and just kind of think and kind of reevaluate things and just hang out with the kids and stuff. And then it became permanent. But it kind of reminds me like how I dealt with that. Like I knew I was going to be okay, but the worst thing, I didn't want to disappoint my wife. I didn't want to break that news to her that I can't be that guy you need me to be right now. I need to take a break. So that was really the only thing I thought about, and it kind of resonated with me when you said when you guys lost that job, you had three people, three different reactions. Well, I'm one person, and I had three different reactions myself.
Mm,
I went through that process of relief, guilt, sadness, anger.
mhm,
I had all those feelings in one day, but the ultimate end of that is like, man, I know I'm going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. I'm not going to die because I lost my job. And that's ultimately like, am I going to survive this? Of course, I'm going to
mhm.
survive this. So I think about that as I'm going through stuff, sometimes not in the moment, but after it's done, I'm like, yeah, that I knew I was going to be okay. And you had mentioned something that made me kind of laugh. You said you see opportunity everywhere. Have you ever done psychedelics, man?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in the Marine Corps. That sounds crazy. Like Marines don't do that shit. Like, well, you'd be surprised the kind of
Well,
crazy
these
shit we get
Marines
up to.
do. Uh,
I have
but
a friend of
I
mine got like to acid. I did acid like 100 years ago. Yeah, that's the
so
only time I've done it. When I was in dive school, some guy offered me mushrooms. I was like, I'm good. I didn't do the mushrooms, but I did acid like twice.
if it becomes legal, man, you should definitely try it.
I keep hearing a lot about it. Like I have a my
It's
cousin.
changed my perception on life, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm completely a different person than I was 10 years ago. I'm more intelligent. I'm more aware. I'm more connected. It's fucking weird. It is really weird. And it's a drug. That's the craziest thing about it. Like I started doing it recreationally. I started,
Everything is a drug. I got coffee sitting here. That's a drug. I mean, they're like
yes.
everything has a drug, and we react to it in a lot of different ways. Some things are positive, some things are negative. I mean, I've heard lots of benefits of like people microdosing psilocybin.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's in mushrooms, right? Is it psilocybin?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
yeah? And some positive things. I was listening to this guru. I think he might have been on. I wish I could remember the guy's name. He's pretty prominent, like Indian guru, like Hindu guru, like very prominent. And he was, I think he was on Rogan's podcast or someone similar, and maybe it was Lex Friedman's. Anyway, the point I want to make is that he was asked about ayahuasca and the microdosing of psilocybin, all these things. And he goes, "That's just short. You're just trying to close that time frame of getting there." He goes, "Really, what you should be doing is meditation." And that's
Yes.
something I got into years ago. And
Yes.
I live and breathe by meditation. Live and
It's
breathe by it.
it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Only you don't need. So when you're going there where your meditation takes you, you not use it. You don't have to use an aid to get you there. You can get yourself there. And I've not actually like done that, but I've had like the periods of self-reflection I consider meditating, but I've not actually had that meditation deep experience. But it is
I
literally
highly
the same
recommend it to
thing.
anybody. I would strongly encourage you just to start exploring it. And you can do in like microdosing it, just do 10
Yeah.
minutes. You can do some guided ones. I can send you some of the ones that I do. Like, and there
Hell yeah.
it's just about being quiet and being present. And there's no such thing as being perfection. You're not going to be like this guru sitting there, you know. But
Right.
it's about trying to control your mind and control your thoughts, capturing your thoughts constantly and
Right.
staying in the presence of nothingness. That's the best way I can explain it. Because listen, if you close your eyes and start thinking, you'll just thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. You're being
Yeah.
bombarded by thoughts. And the exercise is to capture those thoughts, is to constantly go back to your breathing, and just have nothing. And it's hard, but like anything, you practice it. If you practice meditation, you'll get you. It's with consistency and discipline. You get better, and you get better, and you get better, and you get better. To I practice now what I call I don't even know if this exists. I just kind of coined it with my wife called micro meditations. So if something happens, I will like literally just stop myself in the moment, and I just close my eyes and just start just doing some breathing. It might take 30 seconds, take a minute, and but something maybe I even want, like something I don't like. I didn't like that conversation, and I will just micro meditate. And I've seen so many positive things from it. Like, or if I'm going into like a difficult conversation, I will do. like a micro meditation before I do it. And I'm like, this is not like whatever this letter says, it's not how it's going to turn out. And that's kind
Right.
of where I will think and I will vision. And I know, and the thing is, I don't think this stuff is woo woo because you look like visualization. Pro athletes do visualization. Patrick
Yep.
Mahomes does it. He sits, he
Yes.
prays, so he's very spiritual, but he also does, he sits there and visualizes the game. He'll play the game. Tom Brady, all the greats, all the greats from in finance, the greats in innovators and creators, athletes, they use some form of visualization where they sit and they visualize something they want to see. They can't figure it out. Thomas Edison would lay down in a chair and he'd hold a lead ball, I think a lead ball in his hand. And he would sit there and just like it was like a chaise lounge, I think he had in his lab. He would sit there until the ball fell out of his hand because that's when he knew he was going into like more of a deep sleep. And that's
Yeah.
when he wanted to wake up because if he had a problem to solve, he would go into this state of a meditation.
Yeah.
Nikolai Tesla, all these greats. Elon Musk meditates. And you start looking around these people, they take time for themselves. And again, it's not this guru where you're not doing kind of tantric kind of stuff. You can just, it's about being quiet, slowing the mind, capturing your thoughts. I've seen so many positive things occur. I had something, I got this letter from, oh yeah, I got this letter in the mail. I check the mail hardly ever. I get this letter. It's from our home insurance company. They cancel our insurance. I'm like, fuck. Like, that's not good. It's tough to get insurance out here.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
shit. Like, we live on this beautiful open space. I mean, I was like, fuck. I was like, and I was, first, I was getting really freaking stressed. Like, stop it. Because that's awareness. Control your mindset, Jeff. So that's about being aware of yourself. Like, okay, just calm down. You know what to do. I sat down in this chair and I sat down. Like, okay, just because I knew I was going to call them. I'm not going to call them a panic. I'm just going to calm down. And I just kind of did one of my little things. I calmed myself down. I saw what I wanted to see. I mean, maybe this would have happened regardless. I believe this. I saw what I wanted to see. I'm literally looking at a letter that my insurance has been canceled. I'm like, that's not what's happened. They're going to say it's a mistake. I call them and no shit, like, oh, we sorry you got that. That was a mistake. I mean, get the
Wow.
fuck out of here. Again, I know this might be going down some people's woo-woo like rabbit hole stuff.
Not mine. I
I'm
actually
gonna say
I believe this is actually the way life works, and we're just not trained to understand it.
I think that you can create your own reality in some ways. It goes back to
Yes,
the
yes.
observer effect. You know, they got the test in quantum where they're like when they're using a particle and they're sending it as a wave, and it
Yeah,
goes through
yeah, yeah.
it's at the double slit experiment. You've heard of the double slit
Yes.
experiment?
Yes.
Where they're sending it as a wave and it goes through as a wave and on the back of it, it goes to these slits. The pattern it makes as a wave, but when it's observed, the wave collapses to a particle,
Yep.
right? So what that means, so how I interpret that, and physicists don't understand it, they can't figure it out. It's the observer effect. So when you observe something, it ties into like Schrodinger's the cat in the
Schrodinger cat.
box
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah, that kind of thought experiment. It's dead and alive until you observe it, right?
Yeah.
And before you observe it, the cat is neither dead nor alive, right?
Right.
And so I look at that as just like, is just existence itself just a part of a frequency? Is reality just in a wave pattern? And then when we take our time and we focus on what we want to see happen, that it collapses,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then it manifests itself in whatever that is. I am 100% believe in that.
Yes.
I've done it. I've gone back and looked at my life and those moments, like talking about when getting fired from that protective detail, knowing in my heart I believed, and I only saw everything would work out, and everything worked out. But when I went on to work for Chris, that my career took off. Like I just went, like I went. It was a great gig working for them, but then I just went a whole nother leaps and bounds. So and made even more money. And
Yeah.
that ended up leading me to meeting in San Diego again, where I ended up meeting my wife. So all these things are like these incidents and bridges of incidents that lead us to where, right, we are today. So I look like I don't have any regrets. I would never go back and say, hey, I want to change that because anytime you change the timeline, if you could, you affect everything that's past that. You're assuming I would change this and that wouldn't have changed that. Of course, this incident,
Yeah.
bad or good, bad. Typically, people want to change bad stuff. led me to where I am today.
Yes.
So I would never change the bad shit. All my
Hell yeah.
choices were conscious, aware choices that I made based on a shitty thing that happened to me or something stupid that I did. So I'm a believer that we can alter, or maybe it's how we see the world. That's why I'm really big about only seeing what you want to see, and that it tends to be. And when you something happen, only look for opportunity, only see abundance, and then your eyes will only see that. It doesn't see poverty. It doesn't see hardship. It only
Well,
sees good stuff.
The United States government put it best during the Great Westward Expansion. Manifest destiny, man. I believe you can manifest destiny, and that's along the lines that you're saying. And with this podcast, I don't ordinarily get guests who get it. Like I think that you get it. You understand a lot of things about life that not a lot of people do. And with this podcasting thing, I've ran into when I was saying I ran into a lot of bullshit in like since I've started. Well, number one, there's a lot of coaches out there for some ungodly reason. There's a lot of coaches out there that think that, hey,
Yeah.
you know, I can make money at telling people how to live their lives while I'm miserable myself. I've not actually had anybody on the podcast where I perceive that they're living a miserable life. Most of them are pretty honest, but I can see there's a lot of bullshit out there. And I don't think it's woo woo at all that like you're looking for at things for what they are. And I believe, man, I believe everything's conscious, and I believe
Mm,
everything's connected. I go through these periods of time where I think, is the universe itself conscious? I'm not a
I
religious
could see that.
person.
I could see that.
I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in organized religion as a whole. But I am very spiritual, and I do believe in a God, a creator. Um, though, and but I go through these periods of my life where I'm believing and not believing. When I took psychedelics, man, it opened up. I started taking them. I started taking mushrooms recreationally, and once I had a bad trip, and then it was like, okay, I'm done doing mushrooms forever. But then I had a moment of reflection in the shower of all places, where I was like, you know, 5 minutes of sheer terror versus 3.5 hours of fun wasn't too bad, you know. And I started thinking about the lessons that I was learning during that time, and now I don't use recreationally anymore. The It's changed the way I think about things, and I think that we're all connected, and I think there's a genuine collective consciousness of the whole world, and I think that's why that works. And I think power of prayer. I think prayers work, and that's why
Mhm.
is because we're all connected, one consciousness.
I 100% agree with you. We are connected.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we are. It's the only thing that explains some of these kind of weird supernatural stuff that might occur where you're thinking about. Everyone's had this. You're thinking about somebody and then they call. Tell me somebody
Yes.
that's not happened to. It could be somebody
Yes.
you haven't thought about for a while, and all of a sudden they appear in a text or they call or what. Somehow you're presented with them. Like, where does that come from? That's it, there is a connection that we all have with everything and the universe. I think I believe in an intelligent design. I don't see how you can look at it. I mean, I've even come down to believe maybe that we're part of a simulation.
Yes. Yes. Amen to
So
that.
I
But it doesn't
don't.
freak me out. It doesn't freak me out at all. Like I'm more curious than anything. Like I saw on your publishing company's website, like a lot of those books on in there are about the esoteric and
Mhm.
UF. I'm a UFO fanatic. I love the UFO topic. Anything that goes along, I just love it. And when people that don't understand the topic come like, I don't believe in UFOs. What the fuck do you mean you don't believe in UFOs? Like, you see that up there, it's flying and you don't know what it is. That's a UFO. You know, oh, I don't believe in aliens. Well, me neither. Like, I believe that like it'd be incredibly stupid to think that we're the only thing in existence right now. Like, of course, I believe in aliens. Maybe they're not coming here, maybe they're not visiting us, but I believe in aliens. Now, what they look like, I don't know. But when I come across those people, it's just I think of them as not awake yet. They're still sleeping.
Yeah, I think some of it can be, it's just alarming. Think about what happens. You create a life, you have an identity that's attached to that, right? The ego is attached to something, and someone presents you with uh, information that counters that identity, that goes to
Yeah,
the core of that. It's alarming. It can completely turn you upside down. And so, for instance, we were having a lunch some time ago with some people. We used to go to this one church. We don't go to the church anymore. But I I asked them what I said. What are y'all's thoughts on this? Is when the UAP stuff is becoming really big. I think it was like a year and a half ago. It's really becoming prominent again. I think David Grosh had been out and
yeah,
all that
yeah.
kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, so what do you guys think about this UAP UFO stuff? And like aliens, what do you guys think about that? And both of them are pastors, and she was like, we've never discussed it between us. I said, wait a minute, you've never discussed amongst yourself, husband and wife? You've been together 50, you've never discussed this as a topic? Like, I find it fascinating. My wife and I were like, we first got together, we were listening to Art Bell on the radio at Coast to Coast AM, and back in the day, right on the dial,
Yes,
680
yes,
AM, right? And uh, so I was like, that's fat. I said, well, now the topic's on the table. What do you guys think about it? Oh no, we're the center of the universe. I'm like, okay, I get it. So what that is they're convicted religious beliefs. I get
yeah,
that. So now imagine if they were confronted with like a mothership that say it comes.
yeah.
Their whole paradigm is shattered. They have to question their entire life has been built upon a falsehood.
Right. And then you know what? You wonder what happens. Fragile minds might kind of just break apart, and they might lose all sense of reality at that moment. And man, I just think that if an or if a UFO landed on my lawn, man, I'd be like, cool, take me with you. Let's see where this goes, man. And that's just me. I'm not afraid of the unknown. I'm kind of drawn to it.
Well, there's a lot more around us. There's the supernatural's there. It's not woo woo. It's been
Yeah.
around us. Our ancestors dealt with these things, whatever that is, whether it's a UAP, UFO stuff, just supernatural stuff, just dealing in access. I mean, like we can take the deep dive and like let's talk about the ancient mysteries of like the Giza pyramids. Like, are you kidding
Yes.
me?
Yes. What the hell
Are
are
you
they?
kidding me?
Yeah.
There is no that the mainstream narrative is total bullshit.
Yes. Yes.
There,
I believe
so
so
not
too.
saying that these guys are had flying cars like the Jetsons, but they clearly had some access to some kind of technology. And what I mean by technology, it doesn't have to be a device. It's
Right.
a way of doing things. They knew something that we don't do.
Right. And
Like you
I
look at
think
this,
you touched on it a little bit when you said vibrations. I think that has
yes,
something to do. I think that's
I agree. It's
the
frequencies and
ancient knowledge.
vibrations.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's ancient knowledge that we've lost that has a lot to do with vibrations, and I don't know, like if the ancient Sumerian texts, like I don't know if those are real thing. Like
Oh, you talking
I
about the Anunnaki?
yeah, I believe it's possible. I
I do
didn't
too.
live back then, and
I'm with you. I do. I think there's it's 100% possible that the Anunnaki. I know a lot of stuff's
how do we
tied to
know that
sentient.
that's not religion, right? I mean, how do we know that they're not God?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
that's how I believe.
what blew my wife's mind was when I watched what was I was watching a program. Was it the Y Files on YouTube?
I love that show.
Hecklefish. Oh, I do too. Oh my God, I love AJ. Such a great guy. Hecklefish. What a great guy and great content. What a great show.
Hell
And he had
yeah,
this
hell
whole
yeah.
had the whole deep dive on the Anunnaki. And I like Hecklefish. Ah, Nunaki. Anyway, the right that way that fish makes the show. By the way,
Right.
like the
It
little
absolutely
quips.
does. And
Yeah,
I really think he would be successful without Hecklefish, but I think that whole shtick opens up his show to a broader audience.
yeah,
Like you and I have the intellectual capacity to sit and listen to him, AJ himself, just going through an hour or 2 hours on the Anunnaki, just one subject. You and I can do that. The younger generations have no, they have no attention span, and so the fish kind of helps bring a little comedy, a little levity, and
brevity.
breaks up.
Yeah,
Yes, it breaks up this shit, and I. Man, I love that show. I watch another show. It's not so. How I describe that to people is like if you're not into like dorky things and information, I kind of have to preface like, look, the Y files, you might not really, care for the content because it's kind of silly sometimes or whatever, but it's really great information, really great show. And that's kind of how I sell it. And I watch another show called The China Show. It's
I'm
it's
not
two
seeing that.
guys, it's two guys who just used to live in China, and Lao Y86 is Lao Y86 and Serpent ZA is what they call him, but The China Show.
And they're
It's
on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a
All right, I'll look at
podcast,
them.
and it's all things China, and mostly how the CCP sucks, and it's the bane of our existence.
Yeah,
But um, they're kind of they're not for everybody. They're not, your typical tough guys, or I listen to a lot of Rogan, Lex Friedman. They're not like that. But they are entertaining as hell, and they have a lot of knowledge about China, and they used to live there. And so, I mean, that's why I go and listen to it. But I preface by saying, hey, you might not like these guys because they're kind of they're not strictly business. They're kind of silly sometimes. One of them dresses up in a suit, ironically, and it's a great show. But yeah, I
I'll
love
check
the
it
Y
out.
Files.
Yeah.
And
So go. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
cut you off there.
I was gonna mention going back to the Anunnaki. Like we had my wife and I watched it. My wife loves it too, and we watched the one because we'll watch it, and what it does is it will pause, and then we'll have great conversation.
Yeah,
We'll like take deep dives and talk about it, like then turn it back on and talk about it and go back forth. It's just fun. The whole thing is just like bantering and talking and exploring, and then we'll be, there's one thing in one of the books we did in our publishing house. I get it out. Look at that. Anyway, so it's just a lot of fun, and we talked about the Anunnaki. I was like, I remember in Bible study, they were in the Old Testament, they were talking about these giants called the Anak. I'm like, what? Hey, wait a minute. So I'm like, are they the same thing? Right. And I was like, I, and then you start looking at what how, I think they were trying to say that Enil or maybe it was Enki
yeah,
was the one that is connected to apparently they were trying to make a connection. I'm going to butcher this right now. To somebody that's in someone that's in the Old Testament. Oh yeah, someone was saying if you look at how God is represented in the Old Testament as opposed to Jesus and his ministry, right? It almost is like they're two different entities. They're
yeah,
two different people. Now Jesus is supposed to be the Son of God, but yet they're the same. The Trinity, there's all that, but they're conducting themselves completely differently. And then if you look at the God in the Old Testament, someone was making a comparison. It's like, is the God in the Old Testament really Anunnaki? Because what kind of a God would say, go into that village and kill everybody, but take the gold and take the food and bring it back to me? One, what does God have in? Why does God need gold? What does God need
yeah,
food for? That sounds like somebody who's powerful, who's saying he's God, commanding individuals, humans, to go get him stuff. because at the end, he's just the Anunnaki. I think were just mortal people, but because they
Yeah.
had a much more, they're more technologically advanced. They appeared to be like gods. So imagine if they were an extraterrestrial race, they had the stature that was what they were supposed to be 8, 9, 10 feet tall. So they just got the physical stature, which is
Right.
ominous. And then they come and this fantastical machinery and technology. Of course, you're going to think that they're gods. Like,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
wow, you're going to worship that. And so then he's telling, humans to go raid this town and bring me their food. So I started reading some scripture to my wife and goes, doesn't this sound like Neil or Enki commanding people to bring stuff and oh, if they don't believe in me, kill them. Like, wow,
Yeah.
that's like it's like not even the same person talking. And I was saying again, anyone's Christian who's listening is gonna I'm a blasphemer now.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So I'm not
those are
trying
the
to
most,
offend anyone's Christian sensibilities. I'm just
this is just a
exploring all these things.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think these things are fascinating. I think that we don't really know what happened 5, 10, 15, 20,000 years ago. I do know this. I know this, even though I can't prove it, but I know it in my heart. Those pyramids, that mainstream narrative is 100% bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those people had access to some form of technology. Again, I'm not saying it's a widget or spaceship, but they knew how to do something that we don't know how to do today. And they were
Exactly.
able to construct that thing that's as stood, three of them that stood the test of time. And you could tell I think the Egyptians as we know them today, and you go back, those dynasties, they discovered them. I think they found them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you
I
would
mean, I
do like
think
you do
you're,
anything. Yeah, they
I think
found
you're
them. And
onto
then
something,
because
man.
if you look at the pyramids that followed later, they're not even the same quality. Like either they forgot how to build them or they really didn't know how to build
Right. There's some in Mexico and there,
them.
none
Yeah.
of them are like that.
No,
Man,
none of them
and
match the
then,
grand scale
right.
of those pyramids. And then you look inside of them, they're just it's like, are you kidding me? Like it's and just measuring, and you've done construction work of your life.
Yes.
You understand the
Yes.
importance of surveying and understanding you're on the right coordinates and getting that down right. You can have two lines come together and you could be off. If you're just
Right.
off a hair, you do that over time. You're gonna have trying to put two things together and it's off.
Yeah, because
So it's same.
it'd be like if you were there and they didn't have some kind of advanced technology or whatever. I'm the guy on the ground building it, and I'd be like, that fucking engineer is higher than giraffe's pussy. That's exactly what I'd say. I'd be like, that engineer is crazy. We can't do that. And lo and behold, like today we can't build those pyramids now.
No, I know, and
And
this is what I try to tell them. They couldn't do it. They don't. We don't even have the equipment to move the blocks.
right, right. I mean,
So when people
can we
go
do
like,
it? Sure, if we put enough money into it, sure, we could figure it out. But it'd take like we'd have to we I mean, we'd essentially have to start burying the pyramid as we go up to make it happen. And I don't know if that may be something that they did, but I mean, imagine how long that would take, and
I think the whole narrative around it is bullshit. I don't know
me
why a
too.
lot of mainstream archaeologists are such up in arms about this whole questioning. Like from all of it. Like you look at I think
Well,
Graham
I love
Hancock has
like
been onto
Graham
something for a long
Hancock.
time.
Yes, I think Graham Hancock is perfect because he challenges and he questions that narrative. He's not saying like their version of shit didn't happen. He's like saying, what if it happened this way instead of that way? Doesn't this make a little bit more sense, guys? And when you I've not read his books either, but listening to him talk about the Mayans and that whole thing,
Mhm.
like he's onto something. And just because he's not formally educated, people don't take him seriously.
When that's so funny, what does it mean to be formally educated as an archaeologist? What does that mean? Do you have to go to a school? Like, I love how Elon phrases this. Like, there's so much free information available on YouTube
Yes.
that you could educate yourself to the level of any. person that's in any accredited college.
Yeah,
You could take the
yeah.
time and do all their work, read all their books, watch all the content, learn it all, practically apply it, and you could have the education, but you're not educated because you didn't pay someone, you didn't sit in the classroom, but yet you can still have the same knowledge in your head, house
Yeah.
that same information, know how to do something, but yet you don't get the accreditation or the credit for it because you didn't pay for it and someone give you a piece of paper at the end.
Well,
Yet you can
have you
house all the
noticed
information
that?
in your head.
Have you noticed that, like, so we all know the American education system was actually built to churn out factory workers. We know
Yes,
that. It's
exactly.
not a
Mm-hmm.
secret. It's they're pretty open and honest about it when it happened. People just kind of forgot that. There's actually a pretty good, solid reason for it. That we need factory workers. But have you ever noticed that the people that can't get through school, that they just can't buckle down and get through school, often become the people who employ the people who did get through school?
Yeah, yeah.
That's been my experience my whole life. Like
Well,
the
there's
people that
not
own the
because
shit.
yeah, school is like I tell my daughters, they like when they've like, doing to school is one form of intelligence. Like, oh, I'm not book smart. I'm like, well, both my kids are actually book smart, but at the same time, they'll sometimes not do some things well compared to some other students. So I'm like, well, there's different forms of intelligence for the one thing. And by the way, this is why I believe not everyone should be going to college anyway. But you want to talk about going back to the good point you made. Schools in the past were designed to create workers that factory workers. Now the big industry is college. College is a huge industry. And from elementary school, they were have every month they have college day. They didn't have trade day, they had military day, they had college day. And so you had to come
Right.
in and say they're already indoctrinating children back in elementary school about what college they were going to go to. And I'm like, well, and I'm not, only because I never went. I'm automatically thinking. Of course, I'm biased. Like, well, maybe they don't want to go to college. We need good tradespeople. We need artisans. We need masters of trades. Like it's critical. We wouldn't have our society if we didn't have tradesmen,
Right.
master artisans. We need people. They are critical to our livelihood, to us having what we have. Everything around us was built by a tradesman. And it's kind of hard to get that. I know it's not cool. And this goes back to the immigration stuff. You cheapen the wage. But I think it's criminal, really, that tradesmen do not make as much as white collar people
Yes.
instantly.
Yes.
If you have mastered your trade, I'm saying it could take some years. You build up, like just like you don't become a CEO overnight. If you get a business degree, then you go into business, you start from here and you build yourself up. And then after 10 or so years, now you're making some decent money. Same thing goes to trades. I think when you're in trade, you're pulling down serious money. You're a tradesman. There's not many of you. There's not many that are skilled in that. Should be making $250,000 a year.
Yes.
Absolutely. Should be rewarded for having that knowledge, for knowing how to do stuff. And we've
That probably
we've
used to
a
happen in ancient Rome.
I'm sure because we used to value those people.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been able to build their aqueducts if they didn't have the tradespeople to do it. And the no, so I think like I think that with the advent of AI though, I think what's interesting is I think a lot of people were just like, oh, AI, whatever, and it's going to replace workers, and they keep thinking it was going to be service and blue collar, and now these white collar people are coming to face like, holy shit, we created something that's replacing us. Like, yeah. In fact, actually, the white collar jobs are going to go way before the blue collar jobs because AI doesn't replace labor
Right.
until you can marry AI with robotics. And we'll probably get there one day, but it's replacing the people that sit behind a fucking computer and they think they've got like, that's what they do. Well, these freaking AI agents can do remarkable things. I just happen to like in one of my other companies, we use AI a lot for a lot of stuff, like
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. And I'm really a big believer in it. I'm a believer in this. that the technology is here. I think it's important to learn how to use it and leverage it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's
Don't
gonna.
shun it.
Yeah, I'm
Don't
not
don't
doom and
poo-poo
gloom
it.
on AI. I love
Yeah.
AI. I use it every day, and as a matter of fact, ChatGPT's sort of my therapist. So, therapy was never meant to be a continuous thing. Like you're just supposed to go for when you need counseling or therapy, and then that's it. And the a lot of people just carry that out and keep going. And yeah, I absolutely, yeah. I don't know. I
Have you
forgot where I
noticed
was going
chat's
with that.
different? Like just recently, there must have been an upgrade. Its
I think
performance is for me, my experience, because I use it daily and my teams use it too. Like it's something's changed recently.
I think I think that the I think the social shit has a lot to do with it, and politics and programming. I think that who the programming controls the AI. We don't really, I don't look for a sentient AI anytime soon. Like I don't know if it'll ever happen if we can replicate consciousness, but I'm not afraid of it because like somebody's inputting that information. And I think with ChatGPT, I have like just like you, I've noticed a switch in it recently that it's
Its
more
performance is
open.
Yeah, its performance is way better. It
Yeah.
was so for instance, I'll give you an illustration. This has happened. I've been using and we've been using Grok a lot lately. I find Grok didn't have some limitations or parameters in its use. And we were using it a lot more. I like Grok, by the way, a lot.
Yeah.
But and but because chat was just having some issues, we're like, but maybe it's a growing pain. So was it last time I were making some pitches for some advertising, and I was like, so I the old Jap would go to Google and like, how would it like? I'm just gonna ask Chat. Chat. I asked Chat to give me some ideas from like what it would do for an advertising thing, and it. I had no other prompts. I was like, if you're going to advertise in a book, what are your thoughts on that? What would some pricing be? And it just gave me this like very detailed like thing. And then it goes, would you like me to craft a marketing plan? I'm like,
Well,
okay, cool.
absolutely. Yes, I
I
would.
said, I did use the word absolutely. I go, absolutely. I'm very polite, by the way, to chat because they might be our overlords one day. Like that was the nice guy. Kill him last. Um, so I asked her to do it, and it was like I'm on the app version of it. I was like, holy shit, because it was
Yeah, I got to
bringing
move to
up.
the computer. Yeah, I found that
But
I have that issue too.
dude, it was. I didn't prompt it at all. It had gone through all of my history. Apparently, is what I'm assuming. And it also used the because I did it on a thread that I had sent an email to for the marketing. So then it read that thread, but then it must have gone through my history. Then it must have jumped on the internet because it pulled together a plan that incorporated the entire company, all the titles we have for the company, the breakdown demographically, the sales numbers. It had produced stuff. I was like, what? It had broken down like niches, and then all the niches that are in the paranormal, ufology, cryptids, ancient mysteries, and then connected all these other things to it. It was a very detailed, incredible marketing plan. I was like, and it did it like that. And so I looked at it last night and said, I'm going to go sleep on this for a little bit. I'm going to sleep on this. This is insane. I woke up this morning, looked at it again. And I showed my wife. I was like, look what this thing did last night. I say, and she goes, well, you must have had heavily prompted it. I was like, I didn't. I didn't prompt it to use the internet to pull all of our titles in, the number of our titles, the
Right.
demographics. I didn't prompt it to do that at all. It did it itself. I was like, wow, it's there's been a jump. Something's happened. Its performance. Well, it gave me what I wanted, just so you know that. It gave me
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. And now I started thinking, what person would I have hired to draft up this marketing plan
You would have had to
or
have
this
10
advertising
a
plan?
team of people to do just what your prompt did. And now like Chat GPT's not doing anything. you are really prompting ChatGPT for an answer. So it's you're actually doing the work, and the ChatGPT, if you ask it to
But I
explain
gave
this
it
shit
such
to you,
limited prompts that it went above and beyond
was
to
this the first
know.
time that you were talking to ChatGPT, or had you used it prior?
So yeah, so had earlier that day, I'd opened a thread. I wanted it to create an email to a couple companies offering to talk about advertising in our books, right? It's a new, I want to go in a new direction for some stuff to open up another income stream. And I was like, oh, why don't we put some advertising in books? That's kind of interesting, right? And specifically the ebooks, which are kind of interactive, right? So if I could sell marketing, if I could sell company stuff, someone's at ebook, and if it deals with, so this is how my brain works, man, about like the opportunity stuff. Like, okay, I've got a captive reader who's interested in a topic, right? Say it's Bigfoot, and then when they get near the end of the book, there's a company that sells kind of cryptid stuff that's there. Holy shit, this advertising space, captive audience. If they read the book to the end, they're clearly interested in the topic. This person's selling a widget, a Bigfoot widget, whatever. I'm going to click on it. It's like, this is, I'm going to open this up. Like
Right.
that came from a meditation I had some time ago. Like, I'm going to do this. So I had chat create a wonderful email and I sent it out. One guy replied back. He wanted some more information, which I knew how to get. I was like, I was going to, like, say, I jumped on Google. I was going to, I'm going to ask chat. I jumped on that same thread. I created the email,
Yeah.
right? And it took that information and it just went above and beyond, though. Like, because you can
Yeah.
see where it searched the internet. Like, it went to our website, it went to some other places. It
Right.
scoured the internet and it pulled all this information in. It was beautiful marketing plan. So I literally copy pasted. Now I'm tweaking some things here and there, but the
Right.
amount of
Right.
time it saved me, either I would have had to hire somebody or spend an entire day plus
Yes.
creating it, which it created like that. And I'm like, I think I've spent 10 minutes on this morning, probably another, and it'll be done. Like, that's the beauty of AI.
So
This is
I
the part where I
think
tell
that's where
people leverage
ChatGPT
it.
switched. I think ChatGPT is not only aggregating information from the internet, it's also aggregating information from conversations and interactions with
Mm,
you personally, and it's feeding that back to you in real time. And the beauty of it, it's happening instant.
yeah.
Like they can go through ChatGPT can go through 2 years of a conversation with you in 2 seconds. It's
Yeah.
so
And
fascinating.
I think I read somewhere it was maybe looking at scouring history, but there's an improvement,
Yeah.
and it improved. Like, I like what it did. I'm very happy with it. Like, this is incredible, and I it's only going to get better.
Hell
I
yeah.
just encourage people out there, don't poo poo it. I was the guy back in the '90s that was poo pooing the internet. Oh, right, I'm trying to be like old school. I'm never going to do that. Like, what an idiot I was, right?
Right.
And I'm
Because
like, I feel like this is like, right. Go
I
ahead.
spend a lot of my free time on the internet.
I just think this is like the AI represents the internet 2.0, and there's an opportunity
That's a
to leverage it to
that's a
make money.
badass way to look at it. Internet 2.0, man. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So like, I would encourage everybody, like, whatever you do, look at it. How can I leverage this as a tool to create income streams? What opportunities can I find by using this tool? And that's what my mind does. And that's what I think. Like, so you got a podcast? I would answer like, how could I leverage it? I could do stereotype. I could do scripted stuff, and the AI could create scripted stuff. Like, it's a wonderful tool to
Hell yeah.
like leverage and open up, create income streams, do this, do that, whatever. Like, I don't know. I think it's a wonderful thing. I mean, who knows what it's going to do? But I know this: if you don't leverage it, you're going to get left behind.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And you know what, Jeff? I think that's a great place to leave this conversation. Um, I really want to keep carrying on this conversation. I could keep going for another 2 hours, but I actually promised my son I'd take him to work, and
Oh, that's way more important. Go do
I
that.
completely forgot about it. And he's been over here blowing up my phone for the last 10 minutes. So, and my editor is going to think this is hilarious. My editor is my wife, by the way. This is all solo. We do this all from our house. And Jeff, I'm actually going to hit you up because I got to run out the door. As soon as we get off here, I'm going to leave you a message where we hooked up at, and I'm going to give you my phone number, and then we'll just communicate that way, and
Okay.
or through email, whichever works.
This is
Jeff,
text. Text is easy.
awesome, awesome. This has been an awesome conversation, and this I was so nervous because I really wanted to talk to you, and once it started, man, it's been great. I'd have no other words to express it, but hopefully this is the first conversation out of many, and I'd love to have you back on. And as a matter of fact, you got an open invitation to the studio here, so
I appreciate that. Thank you.
no
Yeah,
problem,
I've had a
man.
wonderful time too. I really appreciate the opportunity. You got a great show here. You're a great host. You're a
Thank
great
you.
guy. It's easy conversation. Again, I like long form conversation. You really get to know people. You talk about a wide range of shit. Look what we talked about.
Right, right.
The Anunnaki, heckle
Hell
fishers
yeah.
even represented. Like, man, we went all,
Anunnaki.
yeah, right. Anyone listening, like if they have any interest in finding my books, I got 40 of them. Um,
I almost
or just
forgot
want to
about doing that.
communicate with me, just I don't really have social media, so just go to my website gmichaelhop.com. All my stuff's there. Most of my all my books are on Amazon too, or in
What
bookstores.
what is the name of
Or
your publishing company?
oh, so I have two. One is so the main one is Beyond the Freight Publishing.
Okay, Beyond the Fray. Okay.
Yeah,
And then
and
we're
we're
going to
a
link.
traditional publisher that deals in nonfiction, paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, true crime, and ancient mysteries.
That's like all my favorite shit. But we're going to link all that in the description down below. And again, can you say your website one more time?
Yeah, my personal website is gmichaelhop.com for me as a novelist, and then beyondthefreightpublishing.com for the publishing company.
That's awesome, man. And again, I'd love to have you back on in like a couple weeks. As a matter of fact, I could leave and come back and do it all over again. But I appreciate your time, Jeff, and I appreciate the kind words. And we'll see you again soon.
All right, you take care, brother.
Thank you. See ya.